everyone, welcome back to the Let's Talk Morning Show with Dennis and I. And this is the weekly show where we talk everything in the world of wrestling and also film now. We're going to change it up a little bit, kind of make it more, accessible for everybody who watches this channel. So we'll have that. So Kevin Kruger, who's here right now, Haunted Pillowcase asked if I was doing Taco Bell breakfast. Not this week. Next week, though, maybe, because I have an 8 o'clock doctor's appointment. So maybe next Tuesday I'll do it after that. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I got to figure out what next week's schedule is ahead of time anyway, but I won't know till Friday. But no, it's too hard to go in the morning at this time. And who else is here? Oh, what's your favorite horror character that smokes cigarettes? What horror characters even smoke cigarettes off the top of your head?
I I don't know. I was gonna say Patrick Bateman but everyone else smokes and that he doesn't.
Yeah, no, he's too clean for that. He's got to have that rubber skin on his freaking face or whatever the hell he puts on in the morning.
So I don't really know. You know what? Let's go with what's that guy's name? I feel like that's too early. The bounty hunter from Friday the 13th when Jason's the worm.
Oh, Jason, you mean one of the best Friday the 13th films, Jason Goes to Hell?
Yeah. He smokes and he's a horror character.
I love that guy. I think his name was Duke.
Yes, Duke. So I'm gonna go Duke.
That 4K is actually coming today for me.
Oh, nice. All right.
So pretty exciting stuff because it's such a good movie.
Well, yeah, I know we disagree on that, but we're all entitled to our opinion.
Yep. So let's dive into Raw talk, a little bit of wrestling, because we haven't talked in a couple weeks. We haven't even talked since Backlash. We didn't even get to give our thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's been kind of what was expected.
Yeah, we knew that was coming.
Yeah, we knew the ending. We knew, John Cena wouldn't lose, and he didn't. And I think it's interesting. I saw some clips post Backlash where he kind of looked like he was defeated and maybe second guessing himself the whole thing. Like he just little subtle hints and stuff like that that I enjoy. That maybe his character is starting to realize that this was supposed to be like a kumbaya kind of last run, and maybe I ruined that. So just planting early seeds, I think.
Yeah, because there's got to be a way to have him be a face at the very end so we can get the goodbye. Although I think fans realize now, like, he's playing a character. I think in the world we live in, they understand and they just want to see something new. Like, even Randy Orton, like, at the end of that match, he's not the clean cut baby face. He's still a psycho. And I love, like, the RKO fest that we got at the end.
Yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I feel like we're living in a very, I say it all the time, a tweener world. People are just in between. They're not really, and I think it's because, we're with social media and everything, like everyone's in on it now. So, John Cena turns heel. Most people were like ecstatic and they're like, I'm so happy that he is heel now that it's almost like he's getting good guy reactions, and it's like people are booing him, but it's because they're like in on the joke and they feel they should be, it's not like they actually hate him. Most people love what he's doing. Everyone that I talked to about this, they're like, I can't believe he's finally doing it. It's incredible.
And he's doing it the way that I want him to do it. Like, he's like literally like just a piece of shit. And like the stuff that happened after the show with Ron Killings, I love that.
Yeah, I mean, who would have thought that we were gonna get one of his final, 25 matches or whatever it is, was gonna be him versus R-Truth. It like did not have that on the bingo card for this year.
What an honor for R-Truth to be fighting his childhood hero, though.
It would be hilarious. Well, yeah. I always forget that R-Truth is like 60.
It's unbelievable. Like, I remember watching him in TNA, and he looked exactly the same as he does now.
He's got to be one of the only guys still around who's wrestled for the original WCW, the original TNA, the original WWF. Like, he's been in every company except for AEW, I guess, at this point. He's wrestled like in all the major promotions.
Because people just generally like him. Like, that's what it is. Backstage, they just like him as a person. So like that was one thing you always got in with Vince, is if you can make him laugh, he'll always keep you around forever. And R-Truth could make him laugh. And then he's just a genuinely good guy. So I love to see it. And plus, I remember reading a story about him from his first WWF run, and Stone Cold gave him advice that said, if you want to like last long, he's like, get good on the stick. And obviously he's great on the mic.
Yeah. I feel like that's a lot of, the advice people get in the industry is wrestling is like second nature to it. And that's why, we kind of felt that wrestling and movies kind of cross, because for the most part, we watch it for the stories, for the promos, for the backstage skits. The in-ring stuff is really cool, and a lot of the matches are really great. But most of it is character development, character work, and feuding. It's storytelling. So he's even though his shtick is comedy, he's great at it. He gets people to break character constantly. He's one of like some of the funniest things he ever did when he brought the ladder out to it was the Royal Rumble, right? He brought a
Yeah,
ladder in the middle of the ring.
he climbs up and like freaking tries to like looking around.
Yeah, dude, it's just like stuff like that. And then when he interrupted Brock Lesnar on Raw that one time, and he was like, "I'm declaring myself," and they're like, "What are you talking about?"
And they
And
got Brock to break.
yeah, and then he's just like, "Oh, that's my bad," and he just walks away.
Yeah.
Just funny. And I think, the funny thing is too, like, we all just know him as a comedy guy at this point in his career, but I guarantee the match is going to be great. He's a really good in-ring guy too.
Oh, he's great. I mean, he'll definitely be a good worker with John Cena because John Cena can work a good, fast-paced match. Like we saw at Randy Orton, everyone complained about the match, and I feel like he got the message about the match at Mania because the match with Orton moved along at such a brisker pace, and then of course, even though they did the shenanigans ending, it was fun. So it didn't feel like the end of WrestleMania. It's like they knew, okay, we got to at least send him home with something.
Yeah, and speaking of shenanigan endings, I feel like, moving to the Raws that we've missed and last night's and the week before,
Oh,
I,
both weeks end the same way.
I feel like just it's like the writing team has like brain freeze right now. So they're like, I don't know what to do. Just go out there and as many people as we can send them. And it's like the Attitude Era. There's no winners anymore. It's just all bedlam and all the main storylines.
They give you one clean finish or show, and I think that's it. But
Yeah, yeah, and even on last night's Raw wasn't that clean because Rhea won kind of
yeah,
clean, but it was because of an injury. Well, not because she was going to win anyway, but I read that
she got
they,
hurt, right? I just read that this morning.
yeah, that they didn't actually want Kyrie Sane's return to Raw to end with her getting pinned, but Zoe Stark blew her knee out, like actually blew her knee out and had to leave.
Yeah, so they had to like cover up for it on the fly. I mean, I just still don't think a loss hurts her anyway. It's just what it is. Rhea Ripley is so much more elevated compared to like the rest of the women's division, and then
Mm.
even like she's up there competing like as far as the most popular person in the company. And unfortunately, I feel like she overshadows a lot. I think we've talked about that. Overshadows a lot of other women wrestlers.
Yeah, but you know what it is? She's at that level now where, and I actually was just watching the Chris Van Vliet interview with Joe Hendry,
Mm,
and
good
he
interview.
brought up, yeah, great interview, and I feel like he brought it up. How people say, the TNA champions on WrestleMania, that's great, but you're getting squashed by Orton and blah blah blah. But Joe Hendry was like, it's Randy Orton at his 20th WrestleMania. Like, that's that's not a squash. Like he got a little offense in, and if there's people you lose to, it's like thinking back. If you were a wrestler when Stone Cold was the champion, if you had to go out there and lose to Stone Cold, do you think fans cared that you were the fans probably didn't even remember you lost because it was Stone Cold in the ring.
Yeah, you're supposed to lose to somebody like that. And that's the same thing with Joe Hendry. He's not even technically a member of the WWE roster, and he lost to Randy Orton at his 20th WrestleMania, and he's a last second opponent. I mean, it went exactly how you'd expect. And then more people know the Joe Henry name. And it also proved to like Triple H and everybody, like, yeah, people just know this guy anyway. It did wonders for his career. So I don't understand why people get like so bent out of shape about it, especially now with TNA and WWE. Like, it's almost like they're NXT too. Like, they had the video. I don't know if you saw with Shawn Michaels and the Hardy Boys last week. And I was like,
Yeah,
if they don't work for the company, but yet they're on NXT, it's like, yeah, it's a little strange.
yeah, and that's it just to bring it back to the loss thing. Like I don't understand why we think losses are such a big deal. Like he's the TNA heavyweight champion, and he lost to Randy Orton, but he lost to. It's not like they had him come out and lose to Otis, or he
Yeah.
comes out and loses to the Grande Americano guy, who, by the way, we'll get to that. Hate
Oh
it.
yeah. You hate that?
I cannot. You know what I hate about it is that it's just like I said, the writing for wrestling right now has been all these schmaz finishes. I feel like every storyline is running 6 to 7 weeks too long, and it's
I
just
think I know
dragging.
why, and I think it's because of the Saturday night's main event coming up this Saturday. I think they're in like a holding pattern for these last 2 weeks to get past that, because
Okay.
these 2 weeks since Backlash have felt like every show's felt identical to each other, and they're progressing in weird ways, and they also like don't want to like Logan Paul's versus Jey Uso for the title. Like we know how that ends. It's a clear like let's get this on Saturday night's main event kind of thing. Then he's out of the picture, and I guess they're gonna shift back to Gunther.
So there's another thing. I love Gunther. Gunther's one of my favorite wrestlers currently on the roster. I think his in-ring work is awesome. When he's presented as the killer, when he was presented IC champion, he was absolutely murdering people, and he was all about respecting wrestling. That's his sweet spot. Is he a good guy or a bad guy right now?
I don't know. Like he shook. I feel like he's like the definition of a tweener. Like he hated Pat McAfee because him and Michael Cole were talking shit. But then once Pat McAfee like proved to him, like, oh, you can compete with me. He stood up to me. I'll shake his hand. I respect the man who's going to actually get in the ring and fight me. But I'm going to antagonize the shit out of him until they get there.
Yeah, like it's a heel move to choke out Michael Cole, then to choke out Pat McAfee, but then it's a very big face move to come out and tell Logan Paul that you're going to murder him. So
Yeah,
like,
because people hate Logan Paul, which good, because fuck him.
yeah, he's gonna be a bad guy that his whole. I don't know that there's ever, like John Cena was a face his whole entire career. I don't see Logan Paul ever being able to get out from what like his whole past and everything. And I just think wrestling fans listen. He can go in the ring, and I think that's part of what people hate about him is that he came in out of nowhere, and he's capable of putting on unbelievable matches. The guy's super athletic, and he has picked up on how to wrestle quickly, but just like I don't think people like him as a human.
No, I don't think so. Well, that's the problem is they can't get past all that. But as far as the pro wrestling stuff, he's pretty good, and he leans right into like who he is. I mean, come on, there's no way he's going to be likable except by a certain group of people. So they figured that out. They've leaned into it, and it works as long
Yeah.
as he doesn't win the title. That's the only thing, and I'm pretty sure they're smart enough to know that.
Yeah, especially if he's the one to beat Jay. Like Jay is riding high right now. He's over can be, and to have him lose is just. I'd rather see R-Truth be the one who beats John Cena.
I think Seth's got to be the one. They're setting it up too well that Seth. It has to be shenanigans in a way for him to beat Jay, and then it just works better to have a heel champion and have a face chasing him.
Yeah, and I feel like that's kind of what happened with Cody too, right? It's like the chase, the 2 year pursuit of the title was so much better than his year reign as like I think it should be exactly that, like a 50 like you should be champion half the amount of time that you're chasing it. So like if Jay is champion, he could be champion for the next, 3 or 4 months, lose it at SummerSlam. And then if it's him or whoever coming back, give him a year to chase that belt again. But the problem is like once the face like wins the belt, it's hard because like you almost kind of get bored of it. You're excited when the good guys are trying to dethrone the bad guy. Once the good guy's the king, you're like, all right, well now I don't, like it's less fun to watch a king defend the throne than to watch, a peasant win it,
Yeah, I mean, if you look at through the course of history, other than like John Cena and Hulk Hogan, the faces like of the company don't really hold the title that long. Like Stone Cold Steve Austin would lose the title all the time because Vince would screw him over. Because that's the big overarching feud is Vince McMahon keeping Stone Cold away from the title. When Stone Cold has the title, what's he chasing? He won. It doesn't work as well. It's the same thing with Roman Reigns. Roman Reigns' character, you could argue, is not the same when he's not the champion because he's what's he doing now? Chasing the title too? Does he need the title? It only worked better when he was like hoarding the titles.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that's kind of the pickle they find themselves in right now, right? Is you want to give the fans what they want. And obviously the fans wanted Jey Uso to win. There's no denying that. And he's still over. I love him. I think he's great and he deserves it. But they're in like a weird pattern now where it's like they kind of just need disposable opponents to get to the title change. And I think for some reason in this feud, it's glaringly obvious that that's what they're doing. They're kind of, you think about like how Raw went off the air with the whole brawl and everything. First, the match ends in a DQ.
Mm-hmm.
He's getting jumped. But then it's like, it quickly goes from the world heavyweight champion defending his title to Braun Breaker and Seth Rollins beating him up, to Braun Breaker and Seth Rollins fighting CM Punk and Sami Zayn, to Logan Paul. Jey Uso is the champion, and he feels like the sixth or seventh member of this whole entire story.
Yeah, and he always feels like that. It almost feels like we don't have to do much work with him because he's over with the live crowds and everything, and whatever happens with him he'll be fine. And I get that theory, but he's still your champion, and you devalue the championship by doing things like that.
Yeah, I mean, think about it like when Roman was champion, did he ever feel like an afterthought in any of his feuds?
No, he was always the shining light in it, and you almost knew he wasn't going to win the feud. I mean, you almost knew he was always going to win the feud too, but you still believed that he had competition. You just always knew that the numbers would become the issue at the very end of it.
Yeah, and that's with Jay right now. I feel bad. Like he deserves, and like I said, he's over. I love his
Oh my
matches. I
god,
think
he's
he
so over.
deserves it.
Yeah.
But and again, this is where I think you're right. The holding pattern because of Saturday Night Main Event. But this is the problem. They've expanded so much. They've making so much money that obviously they're going to keep running these Saudi shows and these Saturday Night Main Events and these false pay-per-views, basically.
There's too
Where
many of them.
yeah, and the thing is, like when you had one or two throughout the year, the pause was less obvious. But now you have a Saturday Night Main Event every 3 months. You have a Saudi show taking over all these like now the Saudi shows are taking real pay-per-views, so hopefully that changes. But prior to that, the Greatest Royal Rumble
Oh
they
my
were all
god.
just glorified house shows, and it's like it kind of puts a roadblock in the way of all the great stories you're trying to tell because you're just like, well, we have this kind of throwaway show we have to do.
Yeah, and there shouldn't be any throwaway shows. There's so much coming up right now. Like you got Saturday night's main event, and then I think it's only a couple weeks until you have Money in the Bank, which in my mind is almost as big as Survivor Series now. It's in the top 4 biggest shows of the year. It's always an entertaining show. You always get the 2 big ladder matches that set up storylines for hopefully the
Hmm.
rest of the year. So you want that to be hyped up, but now you're gonna have what, a 3-week run up to Money in the Bank, which you should be like in full hype mode for that right now. But we got to get over Saturday night's main event, which is just a glorified house show. It's literally on network TV on Saturday night, and it's just more programming. And the feuds that are going into it almost feel like filler feuds. Like Logan Paul, like that's fine that he's in there, but I don't buy into the storyline because I don't see him as a threat because I just know it's going to happen.
Yeah, there's like a difference between saying Logan Paul versus Jey Uso for that World Heavyweight title at Saturday Night Main Event and Jey Uso versus Braun Breaker at Money in the Bank. That sounds like, ooh, maybe Braun gets his chance. Saturday Night Main Event is like, okay, it's like every title defense Jay's had on Raw so far, every match he's had on Raw. It's like, oh, he's facing so and so. It's like, yeah, that's great. We all already know that this is going nowhere. Everyone's going to jump in. Same thing with the main event Saturday. Like if you want to have all these extra shows, this is where your IC title, your US title, and your tag titles, or the women's US, the women's IC, and the men's US and men's IC should come into play. Have these shows, have those title changes happen. Have Saturday Night Main Event, instead of doing it at Backlash, do Dom versus Penta for the IC belt at Saturday Night Main Event and have Penta win there. Then you're tying this show to major events, and people are going to start to think, oh, okay, something major could happen at this show, so I should pay attention. Right now, nothing major has really happened. So I almost don't even feel like I need to worry about Saturday Night Main Event. I could just read about it and be like, oh yeah, I knew that was gonna happen.
Yeah, you have to hopefully have people at least intrigued enough to want to watch the show. If they already know it's going to happen, then why watch it? Like at least I'm like intrigued enough to be entertained probably by Ron. Or I still call him Ron the Truth Killings. Our Truth
Yeah.
versus John Cena. Like I'm intrigued enough to actually like I want to see that, so that'll get me to watch that at least. But yeah, I don't really care about Jay Uso versus Logan Paul. I mean that sucks, but I don't care because I just know how it's going to end. Like at least if you can get me intrigued enough to want to watch, even if I know the outcome, you've done a good job building up that storyline. But I just don't
Yeah.
think they built it up. In 2 weeks is not enough time.
No, and I think that's the problem too. And I'm actually looking it up right now. Saturday Night's Main Event card. Let's see what the card looks like so far. What are we in? So we got Jey Uso versus Logan Paul. There is the tag team match, Punk and Zayn versus Rollins and Breaker. But again, like the only reason I'm intrigued with that is because I think it'll be a bloodline kind of thing where another member of this new group is going to come out and help them win.
I could see that. That might because they're rebuilding that up completely, which I guess I like what they're doing. At least it's giving other people new things. Because definitely at some point pretty soon, what's his name? Jacob Fatu's out of the group and he's going on his own as this killing machine.
Yeah, which I think will be great. I really think he deserves that 100%. And he is so far outshined Solo in his short time here that he should be, almost doing like the Baron Corbin lone wolf kind of thing.
Yeah, and he's kind of got a similar gimmick. And plus, I love that we've talked how bad about entrance themes are, but I actually like his entrance theme with the fire going up. when
Hmm.
that one like little sting hits in it. I really
Yeah.
like that. And I heard somebody say like almost knock him a little bit and say that he was Umaga light. I feel like this is the perfect Samoan gimmick because I always one thing that bothered me about Umaga could always go in the ring. It's like I'm supposed to believe that this freaking animal has been walking through airports, everything just fine, going screaming the whole time with a freaking handler. Like, no, I don't believe that. At least I could buy into Jacob like being like, okay, he's just a fucking crazy guy. Like, just don't mess with him or he'll kill you. Like, I feel like that was more of an insult to Jacob than the Umaga.
Yeah, no, I agree. And it's funny that people complain to that because those same people who say he's Umaga Light would also look back at Umaga and be like, look at how stereotypical his Samoan character was. And they just always have a problem. Like, if Umaga was given, first of all, a name that was not Umaga, because that just sounds like the noises he screamed, he would have been Jacob Fatu. He would have been a big dude who has insane athleticism who just murders people. And I don't know how you complain about that. He's doing it so well. And more than anything, he's believable. It's not like it's not like Rey Mysterio coming out and, walking out with his chest puffed and be like, I'm going to kill everyone. Like, you'd be like, okay, like, stick to Lucha. But Jacob Fatu is big and strong and fat. Like, he's believable as a guy who will murder somebody?
Yeah, and he's got the right attire and the right look, like, and he can actually cut promos. Like, you're scared of the guy. That's how it should be. Like, he can cut promos himself. It doesn't need Armando Elamando Estrada standing next to him, like speaking for him while he just stands there like, like fucking no.
Yeah, no, no, listen, you're right. And I think he'll be huge. I think we're heading towards a time where he's a big champ. Braun Breaker's a big champ. There's a lot of younger people, like guys coming up that are like, all right, this is going to be a hell of a run. And I think it's going to be really, really good, but we got to get there. And again, Saturday night's main event. I just looked it up. I didn't even know. John Cena versus K Quick, not even a title match.
What?
It's on the thing I just read, it said non-title match.
So it's just a fight?
Yep.
That's stupid. I don't even know why you would even do that. Like, unless they
Um,
plan on having him win, and that's the only way they can have him win.
yeah, I mean, unless CBS Sports is lying to me, it said John Cena versus R-Truth non-title match.
That's crazy. That makes no
Also,
sense.
Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre steel cage.
Is that a real thing?
That's what this said.
Unless that might be the dark match.
Okay.
Because that sounds like your classic dark match.
Yeah,
Because I
are they
don't
gonna
think
do the blue
either.
cage?
I hope so. Because I don't think they even have either of those guys fighting. Damian Priest, he's still feuding with freaking Drew, and what's his name? Dominic's got something going on right now. I like his little feuds go. He's funny actually right now. Those backstage segments. Did you pay attention to last week when they were trying to teach him about time zones?
Oh yeah. Yeah. No, he's funny. He's really coming to his own too, and I'm happy he got his win.
He's like a
I'm
dumb
really
bro is like his gimmick now. Like people like him. Like it's crazy how he went from the person that everyone boos to like we kind of like this guy. He's just kind of himself.
yeah. I mean, you know what? He stuck with it, and that's what happens. You stick with it long enough, people turn around.
And he's good in the ring. That really helps him.
Yeah. I think I still think it would be cool for him to be able to be the one to retire his dad in a in a match. I think obviously we got to wait and get there for a while,
Yeah,
but I
because
think that
Phil's
would be
not
a cool
ready to go
moment.
yet.
Um, Even if he did something like obviously I don't think he'll ever wrestle in the Rey Mysterio mask because he's already not now, but it would be something neat if they did like a, mask versus hair, whatever kind of match, and he won, and then he just like wore the mask for entrances
That'd be
to
cool.
carry on the lineage, but he can like wear it and then take it off and give it to to someone or whatever, if he's a good guy, if he's a bad guy, whatever. But it would be just cool to carry on because I love Ray and he's been so great for so long that it would be cool to see that lineage kind of continue.
Yeah, I don't know what Dominic's future looks like. He feels like a natural, like he gets the pro wrestling thing. Like I saw him talking to a kid, and like he was saying to the kid, like right in front of the kid's dad, like, "I bet your dad's a deadbeat like mine is." I'm like, stay in character like that with like an 8-year-old kid is hysterical.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think given time, he'll be around for a long time. I think he'll get some big pushes and stuff. I hope he does. I think he's doing really good, but he's currently Again, in one of those storylines that I feel like is just dragging. It's just, and I guess it's because of Saturday Night Main Event, and it's because of Penta and whatever. But like, God, can they just break up? Can Finn Balor just get kicked out already? Like, what are we doing?
I know every week it's like we got to have a little bit of that's the one problem with like the certain storytelling is we know where they're going to end, but they're just taking so long to get there. Like I've heard about the Judgment Day breaking up forever, and right now it's not even it's a strung together Judgment Day. It's not even the same one. Like half these people just feel like it feels like the NWO from 2002 in WWE, where like the leaders are gone, but yet it's still around. Like think about it. This started with Edge, Rhea, and Finn.
That's
Now
true.
Carlito's in
Yeah,
it.
yeah. No, it was, and like so. Damien was in it. Rhea, Finn, Edge. All those are gone, but Finn. It's literally like Dominic. Liv was kind of the pseudo new leader, and she's gone now, even because she's doing a move. Like, even the pseudo secondary leaders are gone at this point. Like, just let it go.
Yeah, you could let everybody move on. Just split them up right here. Have Finn do the quick storyline of Finn versus Dom, and move past it and let these characters go in their separate directions because it's holding them all back. I think even Finn Balor is like a world class wrestler, and his character, I don't even know what you do with him because people don't want to cheer him, people don't want to boo him, and he's one of the greatest wrestlers ever, and it's a shame.
Yeah, I think he needs a face turn. I think that's the thing. He's been heel for a while, and I think that's kind of where this is leading, obviously, because Dominic and all them in the Judgment Day are the heels, and when they kick him out, it'll make him face by default. I think he does need, he had a great entrance, interacting with the when he was a good guy, interacting with the crowd with the lights, and he did his like arm up pose, and the crowd went crazy for it. And I think he really needs to get back to that. And whether that's a face run with the mid card belt, a face run at the top, maybe he, I don't know, somehow gets involved in this Seth Rollins Braun Breaker thing, not with their group, but as like a good guy helping against them. He's a main event guy, and I just think he's a main event guy as a good guy. That's the thing.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that's the perfect way. I think they're probably a little concerned right now with the way that Dom's being received. They're like, well, if we might accidentally make Finn the heel here if we're not careful.
Hmm.
So they got to worry about that because he's like Dom's getting over when they probably thought he was. Because like I read that they sent him back to the ring to do his celebration at WrestleMania because they didn't expect that reaction. So they're just like, oh, go in and lean into it. So I'm wondering if like now they're trying to adjust on the fly with that, and maybe that's why that everything with that is in a holding pattern too. But I don't know. Everything just kind of feels that way.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't know. We'll see what happens come the Saturday Night Main Event. And I think more importantly than Saturday Night Main Event, we'll see what happens Raw after, because that's going to be to me the real kickoff towards Money in the Bank, where I think storylines will actually start to continue to develop. They're going to be unpaused and keep moving forward instead of being paused and waiting. And let's see what happens here. I think that now we can really get to who's Jey Uso's actual opponent going to be for Money in the Bank, and who's Seth Rollins facing, and is there a third member, and is all that kind of stuff will actually happen after Saturday Night Main Event. So we just got to kind of wait and see.
Yeah, which is unfortunate, but that's the way she goes sometimes.
That it is. That it is.
So, any other wrestling stuff you want to get into before we dive into some movie stuff?
Wrestling, I think I'm good. I mean, like I said, we gotta wait. We gotta see what goes on. I know they're building towards a Lucha
Oh
Bros
yeah,
reunion.
yeah, that's
Um,
definitely happening.
I just hope it happens again soon. Listen, the Grande Americano thing, it's funny, but again, it's one of those like you're kind of sacrificing Penta for this story. Like it's not, and I understand it's wrestling and wins and losses don't matter, and we talked about all that, but like Penta came in super hot. People were ecstatic. His merch sold out the first night. Like people love this guy, and he went on a pretty good run. A handful of matches where he just won and showed people he was great. And now it's like he's lost every shot at the IC title, and now he's in a feud with a fake luchador. It's like I guess I could see it leading to like Mask versus Mask, and then haha, the big joke. It was Chad Gable, and like it's fine, but like you had to use Penta for this.
I know this feels more like, and it's funny because he fought Ray Phoenix at WrestleMania, and it definitely would have been Penta if Penta wasn't already in a match.
Hmm.
So it because Ray Phoenix in this entire thing kind of feels like an afterthought too, and it's a shame because he doesn't deserve that also.
Yeah. And I think that's the problem is that and I think so. I think this was supposed to be Rey Mysterio's storyline, to be fair, because Rey was
Yeah.
actually one faced him at Mania, and then he got hurt. And listen, Rey's older; he could get into these kind of stories, and it doesn't hurt him because he's Rey Mysterio. Everyone loves the guy, so it's fine. And I guess you don't want to throw someone unknown into this feud. You want it to carry some weight. So, like, by the way, weeks ago when we were speaking, I said there's some luchador who I never remember. Dragon Lee, that's his
Oh my
name.
god, I was just gonna say Dragon Lee also. Yeah, he's in the LWO, isn't he? Just floating around somewhere.
Yep, totally. And this would be perfect for him, but the problem is his name value is not there. So, like, it's not going to. Dragon Lee versus Grande Americano is like pre-show for Sunday Night Heat level of names. Like, it's not a pay-per-view. So I get you need a luchador who can draw, but like Penta's now on like a losing streak, basically. So what are we doing here?
Yeah, and that's a shame, and that shouldn't be that way. He was so, like you said, he was over like Grover, and now unfortunately they got to readjust for him too. But again, I think it'll all take off next week.
Yeah.
So
Fingers crossed it will.
yeah, so we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah.
So as far as like movie stuff, I had a question for you last week. I was going to ask that somebody asked Uncle Charlie. He wanted to know if you consider the Texas Chainsaw Massacre a masterpiece.
So I I do. The original we're talking, right?
Yeah, the original from 1974.
Yeah, I think yeah, pretty sure it's 74. Yes, I do. Because I think like now we have so many films. I mean, you could go into so many of like the gore, like Rob Zombie did it with his House of a Thousand Corpses. Even more modern, the Terrifier films are just all violence and gore. But like, I feel like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre started that, but it wasn't even like it was that. Like, when you watch it, it's not like super duper gore because
No,
it
it's
was
not.
low budget, but it's very, very unsettling. Like the things that they do. The one scene that I think is one of the best and most unsettling scenes in all of film is that scene where the main character is handcuffed or tied to the chair at the dinner table and they're just cutting to faces as she screams and they scream and they laugh at her and she screams and it's like it feels like it's 20 minutes. It's so uncomfortable, but it's like it's just perfect because you feel like you're in that chair and you're like I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah, that's a good point. And the limited amount of score, the way it feels like guerrilla filmmaking, and you're right, you're just uncomfortable the entire time. I mean, Rolling Stone put out last year that that was the number one horror movie of all time. I'm like, I personally wouldn't consider it that, but I understand why that would be ranked number one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I would make it the number one horror because there's a lot of horror films that have come, that really set the stage for everything in the future. I mean, if you're gonna, how do you even rank as the greatest horror film of all time? If you're gonna start talking about that, you got to start talking about the monster movies. Like Creature from the Black Lagoon and Frankenstein
And
and
is Jaws a
Wolfman.
horror movie? Like, because then if that's the case, that goes right to probably number one, right?
Yeah, like there's is it box office draw? Is it what it like the foundation set moving forward? Is it the films that spawned because of it? So I don't know that I'd say it's the best film ever made, but I would say that it is definitely a masterpiece in the sense that like it's a horror movie that it's weird because people think of it and they think gore. They think like it's Leatherface, he wears people's skin. It's got to be disgusting. But like you don't see people cut in half and blood splatter everywhere. And like it's not overwhelmingly gory, yet it has that kind of tone that you're like, "Oh, this is gross."
It's also got that, like, the inability like, you don't think they can get away. Like, anyone who you think might be a good person turns out to be just as evil as the person before them, so it's like, who's safe? No one you don't even feel like you can possibly get away, like, you feel like you're trapped, that's it, like, and that's how you feel watching the movie, is like, whatever it ends up being, there's no way to get out. Of course, you know the end of the movie, and Leatherface gets a little bit upset about it, but it feels like that while you're watching it.
Yeah, no, I would agree. I definitely agree with that. I think the reason that I'd say it's a masterpiece is it does such a great job at like setting. The setting is perfect. It feels hot. It feels sweaty. It feels dirty. The house feels disgusting. Like you genuinely feel like when you're watching it, you feel gross. I feel like you watch that movie and I need to take a shower.
Yeah, 100%. That's the thing. It's a very gross, dirty movie. And then it's funny because the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 is like an 80s movie.
Yeah, and we talked about that when I went through and watched all of them again and we had a discussion about it and it flies off the rails quick. That first film, absolute masterpiece, agreed. From there, God knows what happened.
Yeah, and I think the Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2 is the best one, but that's also because I'm not a big fan of the franchise.
Well, to be fair, we'll get into the question I was texting you about yesterday, but a lot of horror franchises, unfortunately, really bit the big one after a while. This is the question.
Yep, I figure might as well get right into it since we're talking about it. And the question says, a question for Dennis. That's Dennis. How do you rank
That's
these
me.
horror franchises? Halloween, Friday the 13th, A Nightmare on Elm Street, Saw, Texas Chainsaw, Children of the Corn, Leprechaun, Child's Play, Puppet Master, which I don't think I've even seen them all. Jaws, Scream, Candyman, and Final Destination.
Yeah, so Kevin, this got me good. This is a
This guy.
really good question. Um, and to be fair, the reason that I went with this, or the purpose behind my list, how I answered this question, I kind of looked at it as how great is the original? How great is the rest of the franchise after the original? And then it's from there, it's personal preference. How frequently do I go back and rewatch them? That's a big thing for me. How frequently have I gone back and been like, you know what? I feel like watching an old movie. I'm going to watch this. So it's 13 films. I'm going to start from the bottom and work my way up.
Okay.
So at 13, and John, feel free to jump in. 13,
Oh,
I put Leprechaun.
that's fair.
Yeah, I feel like I watched them all once, and it's not that they're bad. Again, none of these are bad. And if anyone hasn't seen them, recommend you go see them. It's just Leprechaun's not one that I ever am like, you know what, I'm gonna go back and rewatch the Leprechaun franchise. It's just I've seen it, it was fine, and I moved on. 12, I did put Puppet Master for the same reason. Now, I liked Puppet Master more than Leprechaun, but it is basically the same thing in regards to like I don't really go back and rewatch that often. I couldn't even tell you the last time I did watch all of them because it's been so long.
Fair enough. I can't even tell you. I don't think I've seen every Puppet Master film to even like. I'd probably put that at last just because of that, because I don't think I have too much of a history with it.
Yeah. Then 11, same. Now this one might shock a few people, but Child's Play.
Yeah, that is kind of surprising. Although I do kind of looking at the list, I kind of agree. I mean, I'd probably put Texas Chainsaw, just personal preference, but like I do get what you're saying with Child's Play because Child's Play, especially, I think the first I like 1, 3, and Bride, and that's really it for me.
Yeah, they get really wacky. And I also like genuinely just it wasn't my again, this is just personal taste. This is not knocking any of these, saying that you shouldn't see them. I think all of these franchises are great. Just personally, Child's Play wasn't one that I was like, this is I respect it. Chucky is obviously iconic, actually hilariously. You grow up with your dad and it's like, your dad is always big, tough, not afraid of anything. My dad, the number one thing he's afraid of is Chucky. Like
Yeah.
genuinely, if we ever had a Chucky figure like doll or anything, he was pissed. He hates Chucky. So out of respect for him, putting him down low on the list for my dad.
Well, that's fair. Jeff likes Chucky, so good morning, Jeff. Jeff is our channel producer, so but I guess he can appreciate. I know Jeff. He has good taste. He can appreciate being. He's actually reviewed the show on his channel.
Okay, all
I don't know
right.
if you've ever watched the show.
No, I haven't. It's one that I thought, again, it's one of those things that like I saw it and was like, oh, maybe, but it's just never pulled me in as much as I thought it would. I'll have to give it. And the thing also, thank you for this question, Kevin, because the thing is with a lot of these that I haven't seen in a long time, it's kind of re-sparked my interest in to go back and watch some of these lesser viewed films to see maybe, because that's the thing with film. What you watch it one year and then, 2, 3 years later, you watch it again, you might actually love it. So some of these that I'm putting pretty low, I'm going to go back and rewatch to see maybe they get higher.
Yeah, take me higher and higher.
And I gotta
All right. See you later.
go. So then at number 11, I put Children of the Corn.
Children of the Corn.
Um,
Well, you know what? That's fair too. I do like those movies. I still think the first one outshines the rest, though.
and again, that's the thing with a lot of these that I've been looking at is the franchise really that great, or is the original just that great? Now, the first Children of the Corn, I remember actually being terrified also. So it scared me to my core. It was terrifying. And then after that, it gets same thing. Unfortunately, with a lot of horror franchises, as we all know as horror fans, as soon as one is successful, Hollywood's like, let's gobble this up for all it's worth. And we don't care about the quality because people will go. And they gradually get worse. So that's what makes this a little bit of a challenging list. So some of these are higher than others because the original, I'm just like putting originals against each other. And that's why Children of the Corn is a little higher because that first one was awesome.
I agree. The first Children of the Corn is an all-time horror classic. Came out the same year as The Terminator. You can see Linda Hamilton's hair in both.
Oh, look at that. See?
Very 80s.
Mm. Now, this is where I think we're getting into. So, my top 10, 10 was Children of the Corn. Number 9, I think you're going to disagree with me on. And it was tough. Again, comes down to how frequently do I go back. Number 9 for me is Candyman.
I mean, honestly, I don't disagree because that's another one where I only like the first Candyman, and then I like the reboot that came out years later, and I don't even think that's as good as the original. The original Candyman is actually my favorite horror movie ever.
Yeah, and that's why I thought you might have did. But again, this is one of those things I know you love. I also love Candyman. The original one I think is terrifying. Um, just not one. All the films above this, and I know I'm going to catch some heat for some of the names above Candyman right now, but um, all the titles above Candyman, I just go back to more often than I do Candyman. It's as simple as that. Not hating towards it, love the film. I just go back to these other ones more frequently.
Fair enough. Can't argue with that logic.
So number 8, and I think this might be the only one that I catch some heat for, being above Candyman, is Final Destination.
I don't, you know, Final Destination is getting a lot of love right now. Right, the new one has a 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. I saw it; it's great. So I don't know. People are loving Final Destination right now.
I remember. So this is one that's tough for me because I personally feel like it's one of the most consistent franchises.
It knows what it is. It never pretends to be anything more. Like you got the formula, even with the new one. You know you're gonna get the big set piece in the beginning, and you got to hope the rest of the movie kind of like lives up to that.
Yes, and that's the thing is like, and that's why it's higher than some of these other ones that are probably more classic films in the sense of like their original films are better and whatever. But I think people also forget the first Final Destination before it became a thing of like, oh, let's go see how ridiculous they can kill people. The first one was pretty scary. Like
Yeah,
the premise of like you can't cheat death, it's coming for you. There's an order to these things. Like it was really I remember when it came out, I was actually scared like, "Oh my God, death is like a thing coming for us."
and then throughout the franchise, the inescapability is no matter who cheated death, eventually it comes back around.
Yeah, and that's what I mean. And that's why it's higher up because I actually like all I don't think there's a bad Final Destination film because
I don't love 4, the one with the racetrack.
okay. But
I,
again, it's Final Destination, right? Like
no,
it's
cool
just
kills. I think like they work best like either in the theaters or after you take some time off when you're just watching it for like the like entertainment value. They're very entertaining. I actually think you'll like Bloodlines because I found myself caring about the characters a little bit, which is and they gave
okay.
it a history. So it and callback. So it felt weirdly enough like it rewarded you for paying attention.
Hmm.
So I
I'm
think
gonna
you'll
have to
I know you'll like it. I already know.
yeah. Then above that at number 7, I put Saw.
Fair.
Um, I think Saw is also very consistent throughout its whole thing. I think there's just a lot of it, and it's essentially Final Destination, but Jigsaw is death.
Yeah, pretty
You know,
much.
I I think that's why it's just one above Final Destination is because the Jigsaw character and a lot of the imagery and stuff is a lot cooler than because Final Destination, like our antagonist is death. It's you can't see it. It just comes and you die. In this one, at least there's a person, there's a purpose behind it. And a lot of the twists and turns in it, I remember, and I cannot remember for the life of me which one it is with Donnie Wahlberg.
Oh,
Um,
that's two.
okay, spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it, pause right now. At the end, when he's with the other cop in the room and he's like, get in the coffin.
Oh, yeah, that's the one with Hoffman, right? Too.
Yeah, and like, but Donnie's like, I'm not gonna get in this coffin. Like, obviously that's a trap. So he gets in, and then the coffin goes in the ground and the wall closes, and like that twist was so crazy. I remember watching it and like genuinely my mouth was like because it was so creative. So I just think creatively, storytelling wise, Saw is just a touch above Final Destination for me.
Did you see the most recent one of those?
I don't think so, actually.
That one actually surprisingly is good, and it almost does something that's crazy that you only see in wrestling, and makes the villain the hero.
Really?
Yeah, and you know what? It does it in a believable way. I think you would like Soul X.
All right, I'll have to give it a shot. That's one that I feel like when Halloween season comes around, I go through and
Bang out the
watch.
franchise.
Yeah, so that'll be I'll add it to the list for this fall.
It's a real dark turn before you get there, in my opinion. Though I don't like Jigsaw.
Oh, that's fine. I mean, we all make mistakes. You made me watch a Serbian film, so I
Let
don't
me
think there's
just
a
tell
such
you,
thing as dark turn.
the guy who made me watch a Serbian film is a channel director, Uncle V, friend of mine, also a big wrestling fan. Um, he pays $9.99 a month, so he gets his own choice review each and every month. And I feel like he's challenging himself to see if he can outdo a Serbian film, because some of the movies that I've had to watch Necromantic and Unspeakable, which is one I'll be reviewing soon. And my God, like they have an entire genre of films like that.
I don't know that I will ever be able to watch any of those, so I'll trust your reviews because Serbian film absolutely ruined my life for like 6 months.
Would you say that you wouldn't have a threesome with you, your wife, and a dead body?
No, not interested.
Okay, well then I guess you're not a necrophiliac then, are you? Because I watched that movie.
Oh God, yeah. Well, more power to you, I guess. I can't.
Exploitation films is like that genre, like like the almost like the video nasties.
Mhm.
It's got an audience. It's just like I'm not the audience. I
Yeah.
don't think you are.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm barely the audience for some of these. I mean, that's why Leprechaun is so low, and I don't think Leprechaun's anywhere near that level.
Well, how do you feel about the Terrifier films? Is that on this list before I ruin it?
No, it's not on this list.
Okay.
It's do you wanna discuss that after I finish the list?
Yeah, might as well save it. We'll table it.
Okay, so that was number 7 was Saw. So now I'm in 6, just outside of the top 5, I put Texas Chainsaw. Again, while the first one is unbelievable, the only films I actually enjoy from this, and I might catch some heat for this too, are the original, and then the like I think 2003 remake, whatever one Jessica Biel is in, and the prequel to that
2003.
one.
You're right.
Those two, so that one, and then the prequel to that one.
Which is like '06, right?
Yeah,
Texas Chainsaw Beginning.
yeah, those three films, love them, absolutely love them. The rest of the franchise is just a mess. And it's just like whenever a studio needs to dust off a horror film, they're like, let's just give a Texas Chainsaw film a shot. And the storyline is all over, and there's new cousins and nephews and aunts and brothers, and Leatherface is adopted, and he was actually born from a cow. And like it gets ridiculous. So that's the only reason it's outside the top 5. However, cannot take away from those 3 that I said. Think that those are all unbelievable.
Did you like the remake or whatever the hell, like the Legacy sequel that came out like I want to say 3 years ago in 2022?
The freaking Netflix one?
Yeah, that's the one.
No.
No, not even the bus scene.
I mean, the bus scene was hilarious, but the rest of it, I was just like, oh my God, like
Oh,
it just, it was cool to see, the callbacks, but I don't know, man. It was a lot, and I just didn't. I don't know. I didn't enjoy it. Maybe I'm the only one who didn't enjoy it, but to me, it wasn't. I don't know. It was weird, and also Leatherface went from like creepy butcher to he reminded me of like a Doom monster. He was just a balding, greasy mess. It was weird.
he was also like 75 years old, more than likely. So
Yeah.
impressive stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So now that brings us to the top five. So
Mhm.
rounding out the top five in the fifth slot will be Nightmare on Elm Street.
Okay, I like that. I mean, I think it deserves the top 5. I think I was talking to you and actually David at the same time last year. You were having, I think, a mental breakdown while watching these movies.
The Elm Street films.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm.
Because again, this is why it's not higher. It's high because I think most of the franchise is great. Freddy is super iconic. It spawned a lot of, really cool films. First is great. I think the second and even third is Dream Warriors, right?
Mhm. Loved that one.
Great. We just kind of get to the point where like he starts to have babies with people and like it starts to get really weird and that's where it falls. And the remake, by the way, was hot garbage.
I hate the remake. Despise
Yeah.
it. But I
But
do have a soft spot for Freddy's Dead, even though it's ridiculous, but it's almost if you look at it just as a spoof of the entire franchise, I think it's
mhm.
enjoyable in that sense because it's a comedy. It's a Looney Tunes comedy.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what I mean, like, even though it gets a little out of control, it's Freddy, so it kinda can get a little out of control because that's his gimmick. He's a funny kinda monster, so it works, and of course, listen, he's so iconic, to keep him out of the top 5 would just be disrespectful, so he's gotta be in the top 5, but he is in the 5th slot because the 4 above him, I just personally this is where it really becomes a personal preference. I just like the 4 films above this franchise more, that's all.
That's fair. I mean, hey, it's your list. This is a personal list.
So that brings us to number 4, and I think this one might surprise you given you know how much I love it, but that's gonna be Friday the 13th.
That is a surprise because I've also felt like this is one of the most consistent franchises in horror history. One I can see that's above it. I think has a lot of highs, but also has a lot of lows. Where I feel like Friday the 13th is like that safe heartbeat. Like it never goes too crazy good, but it also never gets crazy bad, in my
Yeah,
opinion.
no, I agree with you except for the stupid worm. I cannot get over the worm.
I love that
Um,
movie.
yeah, I know you do. We disagree hardly on that. Um, I I love, 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 love. If you were to ask me who my favorite slasher of like the big slashers are, it's Jason. Have always loved Jason. Friday the 13th is probably my most gone back to franchise. It's just that above. Now, this is where two films above it, I think the originals are just far superior. And the number one film, I think the franchise as a whole is just superior. So that's the only reason it's fourth. But if you were to ask me who on this list is my absolute favorite, it would be Jason. It's just, I go back to it the most. I enjoy it the most. Like you said, it's very in the middle. It never high, never low. It's just you know what you're getting with these films. However, three, two, and one, they're just their original films are just if you put them against each other, it's light years beyond.
Fair enough.
Which brings us to three, which I put Halloween at, and that's where I know that's where you meant with the lows, right?
Yeah, there's just so many. Like, there's not a Friday the 13th movie that is as bad as Halloween Ends, or even what's it, Resurrections? What's the one
Hmm.
where with Buster Rhymes where he trick or treat Michael?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, listen, it's a roller coaster ride for Michael, but you put original Friday the 13th against original Halloween.
I mean, yeah. I mean, Friday the
I'm
13th is born out of Halloween. Like, that's the whole premise of the movie.
Yeah, and that's another contributing factor. Without Michael, we probably don't get, well, actually, kind of like admitted by the studio.
Yeah.
Without Michael, we don't get Jason.
Well, it wasn't even like just Friday the 13th took off. Every studio wanted that then. It continues to this very day. When they see something make money, everyone wants a piece of that pie, and then we do what we always do. We ruin it because we just give them too much.
Yeah, and to be fair, the first two Halloweens I think are fantastic, and a big part of it too is setting. It just like when you're in the middle of fall and the leaves changed and it's cold out and it gets dark at like 5 o'clock, to put a Halloween movie on, that score alone puts it at number three because that score, the little jack o' lantern coming up the screen, like it is ambiance beyond. So that's really why it steps up above two. It's just all around, I just think the original two films are just fantastic.
Yeah, I agree, and I mean, I think the best one in the franchise is Halloween 3: Season of the Witch. Even if it technically shouldn't be in the franchise, it still is better than all of them, and I also really like Halloween 4. Like, I think it's and 5, 6 is bad. H2O is good, so that's a pretty decent one, and then I really like the first 2 in the trilogy. Like, I liked Halloween and then Halloween 2018, and it just Halloween Ends, it's depressing.
Yeah, the way that they ended it was brutal. That was really stupid, and it like makes me happy that they haven't continued with, like Friday the 13th got a reboot in 2009. I'm happy they didn't continue with that because Lord knows how they would have killed Jason. I mean, they probably would have remade Jason X and made him like, I don't know, fighting Darth Vader and shit. Like if the studios owned both, it would have been so stupid. And like, I don't know. I'm happy that they didn't bring that back because they ruined Michael, like dying in a sewer and getting like this guy adopting him as like just get out of here.
Yeah, I didn't need a father-son storyline with his own paper mask that Jesus Christ.
Yeah. Yeah, but aside from that, I think Halloween's 1 and 2, fantastic films, and that's why it's 3, which brings us to number 1 and 2. So number 2 is solely here because the original is one of my favorite, probably in the top 3 favorite films of all time, which would be Jaws.
That is fair. I know that I was making reference to yesterday. I'm actually David and I are filming the first part of our Jaws show today, and I mentioned to you yesterday that, I'm surrounded by you and David, and you guys just absolutely adore the original Jaws.
I do. I love it for everything that it is. I think, I mean, and listen, I'm not going to beat a dead horse. Everyone knows the story. The shark didn't work, so they had to get creative with the camera and da da da. But that's what makes it incredible. Like, it's one of those films where a lot of films now, I feel like the monster is just exposed in the beginning. People are impatient. They're like, "Show me what the thing is." In Jaws, you don't see the shark for like the whole freaking film, but you feel the shark. You when you see the people's feet kicking. I can't tell you how many times as a kid I'd even be in the pool in my parents' backyard and be like, is there a shark in the pool right now? It was because you just felt that terror. So I just and the franchise, Jaws 2 is fine, but like it starts to get ridiculous when he invades SeaWorld and then like he's out for revenge in the Bahamas. Like it there's no denying that it falls off a cliff and super fast. But the first film itself, to me, we're talking about masterpieces, is a masterpiece. And the second film follows up pretty well as like it's a good film too. So that's why it's number 2, primarily because Jaws 1 is to me just it's a must watch. I watch it every single year, if not multiple times a year, because I just love that film.
Yeah, I'm currently enthralled in massive amounts of Jaws research, so this is on my mind a lot right now.
Okay, yeah. I know that we disagree. You're not a huge Jaws guy. I know that you appreciate it for the filmmaking
Yeah,
aspect,
like
but you
I
don't
think
love the film.
Well, yeah, that's kind of where it gets tough because I almost feel like I have to like just because like it's your favorite film, it's David's favorite film, my cousin Matt, that's like his second favorite film. I almost feel like I have to just get a little defensive when it's just like it's still a movie I like. It's like I still watch Jaws every year. It's just I don't walk away from Jaws going like that's the greatest movie I've ever seen. I can't wait to like just talk. That's just how only thing that happens. I still walk away from Jaws going, oh, that's a great fucking movie.
Yeah.
It's very well at the very least, it's incredibly well made.
Yeah, and I know that your big argument always was, just don't go in the water. And like, so I get it. There's
Well,
a, there's
I'm not going to the beach anyway. So like Jaws is never a concern for me and it never will be because I hate the beach. So I'm never
yeah.
gonna be in the water where Jaws is gonna be a threat to me. I'm gonna be sitting on land like what was the Family Guy episode when they had Aquaman out in the water and he's like, hey, get off of her.
Like I hope you're all right with starfish, otherwise you're not gonna like what I just did.
Why don't you come in the water and do that?
Yeah, I mean, I get it. I think the thing, and I mean, I can't speak for everyone. I mean, we live, on Long Island, and I go to the beach all the time. I love the beach. I love the water. I've always been like a huge beach person. So, and I also like have always been like a part-time marine biology nerd, like reading up on fish and sharks and whales and habitats and everything like that. So I like that part of it too because it's so fascinating, especially like when you know the inspiration for it partially came from this crazy Montauk fisherman that used to go out. I don't know if you even know that, but there was a fisherman in Montauk who literally would like he went out deep into the water where gray whites were and like would find he claims that he would find a dead whale carcass that was floating in the middle of the ocean and he would stand on the whale carcass and wait for the great whites to come and pick at it. And that's how he would catch great white sharks, standing on a dead whale.
I mean, it is fascinating how people were able to do that back then. It's not like the technology that we have now. So somebody was out there doing something like that.
Yeah. So I mean that's where like Quint's inspiration came from. You know, it's I don't know, it's just again, it's only reason it's number 2 is because the number 1 franchise, I think personally, from original to the last film, has been the most consistently great. Which number 1 that I put here, if you didn't already deduce it, is Scream.
Yeah, and I actually would probably put this at the top of my list too, because the same reason. As far as consistent quality goes, the Scream franchise from 1996 on, every film is good.
Yeah, I just think start to finish every single film, and you know, with any franchise, when you start to get into 4, 5, 6 plus films, you can start to poke holes in things and say, how is it realistic? This happens, that happens, whatever. But in terms of quality, Scream, I feel like was the only franchise that was able to avoid the the same fate that all the other franchises had, which was studios just being like, we don't care who directs it, we don't care who writes it. We just need to pump one out every year, every 2 years. Scream was the only one that was able to avoid that and keep a consistent. You can go and watch any Scream film, whether 1, 5, 6, it doesn't matter. Go pick any of them, and it's going to be a good film.
I agree. I only got a little bit flawed in the last film because I just felt like characters they bent over backwards for characters not to die to be in the next film, and now the next film's like not going to be even kind of lined up with this. So it almost felt like they bent over backwards for nothing, and it kind of taints that one a little bit.
Yeah, which sucks because it made it so long without any issues, and that's almost why, like, I understand as a fan, I love to see films continue. I would love to see, as much as I'd be scared, I would love it if Friday the 13th got a little reboot. You know, the only one I think you couldn't reboot would be Nightmare. They tried it, obviously. If you don't get Robert Englund, I think that's the problem. He's Freddy. Freddy
Mhm.
is Robert. Robert is Freddy. Like, that's it. You can't touch that. But all these other masked guys, I think you can get away with redoing them, and I would love it. Obviously, I'd go see
I
it.
mean, most of the time, Michael and Jason are just played by stuntmen. I mean, like we love Kane Hodder because you're aware, but most of the time they're just stuntmen.
Yeah, and that's why I think you can get away with it, but in modern times, it's tricky because like, you don't wanna I don't know, you don't wanna ruin the legacy.
Yeah, that is true also. And that's the big thing. But like at some point in the future, you just know that they're gonna have a different Darth Vader. They're gonna have a different Freddy Krueger. It's inevitable. They'll have a different Terminator when Arnold dies. It's just there's too much money on the wall.
Yeah, unfortunately, I agree. But listen, again, it's a double-edged sword, right? Being a horror movie fan, right? Like, so for instance, Jeepers Creepers. Love Jeepers Creepers. First 2 films, thought they were awesome. When I heard a third was coming out, I was super excited because so many years had passed, and I was like, "Oh my god, we're gonna get another one." It was underwhelming. Then they announced they were gonna do another one years later. That was only a couple years ago. That was like A New Beginning or something like that it was called. And I don't know if you watched it, but God almighty, it was terrible.
Well, it was your review that made me not want to watch it. And now, if we didn't do that video last year on The Strangers Chapter One, I probably wouldn't have watched that too because I heard how bad it was. And you know what? It lived up.
Yeah, and that's another one. Strangers loved the first one. Pray at Night was a good film. It wasn't as good as the first one. Second one was fine. Then they did the chapter one, and again, I don't know why they can't figure it out, but I that's the double-edged sword of it. I would love to see these films that are so great continue to be made and have sequels and everything like that. But the track record's really not that great in terms of capitalizing and writing the right story and making a really truly captivating film.
Yeah, that's the problem. I feel like that they've missed out on. Um, it's really unfortunate, but I love your list, buddy. I really do. I think that's a fair list. Putting Scream up top is worthy. I think that is absolutely, and it's funny. You can always just have a rotating chain. That's one where the actors mean a big difference to the actual villain. Much different than like Halloween and Friday the 13th, just because, like I said, you can just do stuntmen in those. That's kind of what they were doing.
Yeah, and that was fine, and I understand that, and that's why I think you can remake that. I think Scream is interesting because it is a masked killer, but the motivation that's always at the end turns out like the character matters under the mask. Where like, and I know we disagree. You hate Rob Zombie's Michaels because previously there was nothing under the mask; he was just the shape. But that's where Scream is different. He's not just a boogeyman. Like it's a person under there killing someone because they have some sort of anger or revenge on their mind.
Yeah, they just basically, and they make sure to let you know in the beginning of the first film is that anyone can grab and buy this exact costume. So it could literally be anyone. So what's pushing them is the motivation to do this. And they just knowing that because this is such a big deal, this character now that we can hide under it and everyone's gonna be like, well, what's the reasoning behind
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So it, yeah, it's interesting.
it? You'll
But yeah,
never have an Uber ghost face like you have Uber Jason.
no, that's true. That is true.
Oh,
But yeah, thank you again for that question. I appreciate it, Kevin. Really racked my brain all night last night thinking about it because I couldn't. They were all great franchises, all things that I enjoy watching, but it was tough. I was texting John about it all. I don't know, man. How do I pick? What do I do? How do I order it? So good question. I appreciate it.
yeah, I thought that was a great question. Here's a question that is kind of for both of us. Let me just, yeah, right here, because I think this makes sense because you kind of started collecting a couple of years ago. Do you think there's a difference between Blu-ray and a 4K Blu-ray for a newer movie in a night and day difference? Like, for example, the newest Mission Impossible, does the 4K blow the Blu-ray disc out of the water? I personally think for new movies, no. I always think that if you're going to buy a 4K Blu-ray disc, it's always better. You'll notice more of an upgrade in older films. Whereas with newer films, like, yeah, it's going to be best on 4K Blu-ray, but with the technology, what it is, Blu-rays for like a new film are still almost as good. I'm a snob, so I'll still always get the 4K Blu-ray no matter what, just because I know it's still slightly better. But they'll even put these same audio tracks on the Blu-ray now, extras. So there's not really a huge difference for new films.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I think I agree. Like the technology in terms of the actual filmmaking process, I think is so high end that like it's really, it's almost like it's like going from a 4K TV to an 8K TV, or like the human eye really can't tell the difference because it's such high quality work already that the difference is kind of for me. I actually do the same. I do the 4Ks, but it's an like a or an OCD thing. It's because I like the boxes better. I like typically they're the black with the silver accents, and they have the slip covers, and they just match a little bit better. So that's my reasoning for going with the 4K ones instead of the Blu-rays. But quality wise, I haven't really watched anything newer that I bought that I've been like, wow, this I should throw the Blu-ray out. Like this one is so much better.
Yeah, and I feel like that's one thing I always try and preach to people is like Blu-ray's still great. I don't think people understand. Like, yeah, 4K might be the best. I just think that what sells 4Ks is more of the high dynamic range and the Dolby Vision over actually like the increased in the in the actual, what do they call that? I'm drawing a blank on the actual resolution from
Hmm.
jumping from to 4 times sharper image. Like when you just look at that, the naked eye can, like, in my eyes are not the greatest. It's already hard to pick that up as it is. And going from 4K to 8K, I think that no human eye can see that from close range. It'll work best in like a theater. Then maybe you'll notice a difference. But it's like IMAX technology. That's like what sells nowadays. And like when you get a 4K Blu-ray of like the new Mission Impossibles and you get the IMAX ratio, that's what sells a new film. But like older 4Ks, like I mean 4K Blu-rays of older films, like I just watched the black exploitation classics.
Hmm.
Those movies are from the 70s and they were hot garbage as far as like the visuals go.
Yeah.
So they cleaned those up and it's like a night and day difference.
Yeah, when it comes to that, it's when you're cleaning up older films, 100%, I agree. But modern times, and also, I mean, obviously, everyone on the channel probably already has a really great setup for it since we're all here as film buffs. But if you also don't have like the latest and greatest, television, sound system, soundboard, the whole nine yards, you also won't notice a difference because, like, if your TV is not capable of going that high in resolution, it's not going to matter also. So it's all relative to what your setup is and really what your preference is. If you are like a super duper snob, you might be able to notice, but I personally I think Blu-rays on new films are fine. You don't need to go crazy going into 4K. If you're like you said, if you're going older remastered films, huge difference. But newer films, you could save the extra money if you really want, unless you have OCD like me and you want all of your boxes to match each other.
Yeah, there's like if you watch the channel, most of the 4K Blu-ray reviews I do are of older films getting the new restoration, and then like every once in a while, like Sinners, when that comes to 4K Blu-ray in July, I'm gonna buy that because it's gonna have the IMAX ratio. So I want to see how that looks in my home theater. But for the most part, if a new film's coming to 4K and I saw it in theaters, I'll be like, yeah, I'll wait for a sale because it's not gonna be much different than when I saw it in Adobe Theater. Whereas like for example, Jason Goes to Hell got a brand new 4K Blu-ray scan because it deserves it, Dennis. And I'm really excited to see how that looks compared to the previous releases because I've been watching that since VHS.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you compare VHS to it, I'm sure you're going to notice a pretty big difference.
People are buying
You,
VHSs again.
I listen. No, I do. Actually, my parents bought a VCR recently because they found a bunch of home videos, so they went out and bought a VCR from a yard sale for like $11.
That's steal.
And yeah, it is. Yeah, I mean, you'll notice a difference there, obviously, but I don't, again, personally think newer films, it doesn't matter. It's up to you. It's up to what you think. I personally don't think you're going to notice unless you're looking. If you're like side by side comparing, you might be able to point some stuff out. But if if you're just trying to watch a movie, honestly, with how technology is today, it everything is fine. I mean, I remember still when TV first got HD and sometimes would go blurry because the TV couldn't keep up with it. Like we're so far beyond that I think a Blu-ray is just fine.
Yeah, I agree. And there's some shitty Blu-rays, but that's also because it's we still get shitty 4Ks too. It's how the studio did the work. Like, unfortunately, some studios are going to be lazy no matter what the technology is. Can't fix that.
Yeah, that's true. So I guess I have a question for you, actually.
What?
With how much you collect, who would you say are like the top two or three studios to in terms of 4K releases that do the actual process the right way, and you've almost never gotten a bad 4K scan from them?
Oh, Arrow Video would be 100% number one for me, and I've seen them improve on bad 4Ks. Like for Kino Lorber does like US releases a lot here of like similar films because they're a UK company, Arrow Video.
Mhm.
So for a lot of times, like the Taking of Pelham 123 is getting a UK release, but we already had that here for years from Kino Lorber. And chances are that new Arrow Video release will be better than the Kino Lorber release, even though they'll come from the same exact scan. It's just Arrow Video does a better job in like post of like in sense of like the color timing will just look better from them. And just like Kino Lorber, unfortunately, I love them, but they can be a little bit lazy sometimes. They've gotten better, but
Yeah.
I always think Arrow Video is always like far and away the best boutique label. There's a lot of other great ones. Like number two is harder because like I've gotten some bad Criterions. I've gotten some bad Kinos, but I mean, I guess Scream Factory never really misses either. They
Mhm.
they really upset me with Time Cop earlier this year. Though. That was like the first one where I felt absolute betrayal from them, where I felt like you kind of I trusted you, and then you go out and sleep with my best friend. Like that's what basically it felt like with Time Cop. Because I like, but either way, or I'd still put them at
Yeah.
two.
Now, what about worst? What do you think? Is there like a label that you have gotten so many bad ones from that you just don't even bother shopping?
Not as far as boutique labels, but like Paramount is the absolute worst overall when it comes to I get worried about pulling the trigger on them. Like I've got like even this year, like Tommy Boy on 4K was a bad 4K Blu-ray. Like they're still putting out shit, and they shouldn't be like that. The technology's there for them not to do that. But boutique labels, for the most part, like they're all pretty good. Like they put most of their concentration into it because they're actually film fans. When you
Mhm.
buy from the regular studios like Warner Brothers and Universal, you got to worry about who's actually doing the transfer.
Yeah.
That's kind of the whole thing. John Doe Juggalo said 2025 is the year of the film. Foremost format snobs are missing out. That is true. Exactly. Just watch the movies, guys. WB do great 4Ks when it comes to major non-boutique labels. I agree. Right now, they're number one. And funny enough, WB does the same finishing as Arrow Video, the same studio that finishes up. I think it's called High Fidelity in Motion or something like that, or Fidelity in Motion. But they're the same studio, and it shows because their 4Ks look very similar to each other.
Interesting. Yeah, I actually started last last year, 2 years ago. I can't remember how long ago when I was starting to collect as we were talking about it. The first place I went was Shout and Scream Factory because obviously they have all the horror movie ones. And the first thing I did was bought the Halloween, with the really cool artwork on the hard cases.
Oh yeah, I
Um,
love those.
then you got mad at me because the only one I didn't buy was Season of the Witch.
But didn't you fix that last year?
I did. I have it
Okay.
now, so it's a complete set. Everything is good, but I love those films. I think that they're, the and I always ask you, let me know about sales because, just for those films, I dropped so much on them because,
Yeah.
obviously listen, it was worth it for me because now it's sitting on my shelf and it looks really nice. Like, it's a beautiful looking set. But that's really where I've been. The Shout Factory, Scream Factory area is where I've been doing most of my collecting from because, horror movies kind of my first place to go.
Yeah, I knew that you would probably love that. And Arrow Video does a lot of horror transfers too. Vinegar Syndrome does a lot of like low budget horror transfers, like a lot of movies like you wouldn't expect. And Blue Underground is another one. But yeah, Scream Factory, I would say if you're a horror fan, they're the kings. Like they rarely miss. Like I said, they missed on Time Cop, but it's okay. I'll forgive them.
We're all entitled to make one mistake.
I'm getting Jason Goes to Hell and Jason X on 4K today. So it's funny. I had Jason Goes to Hell and Jason X pre-order from Arrow Video, but they never shipped them. So I just they went on sale for $28 on Amazon. So I just pre-ordered Jason Goes to Hell from Amazon. I actually canceled my Jason X one because I heard it's not as much of a jump. So I'll wait till that's down to like $20 because I already have Jason X on regular Blu-ray with I think the same scan. So I'm just more excited for Jason Goes to Hell. You know how good of a movie it is.
Yeah, I mean, listen, Jason X is clearly the better film there, but I'll let you have your opinion.
I love Jason Goes to Hell. See, John Doe Juggalo gets it. Season of the Witch 4K was the first one I grabbed after Halloween 78, which I understand. Most people are going to grab 78. Like in the initial run, I grabbed Halloween 1, 3, and 4. I didn't even get 2 until a couple years later when it went on sale.
Yeah, I went. I just bought all of them at once, and except for the third because it bothers me so much that it's not a Michael film. I think it would bother me less, and we've talked about this before. If either A, it wasn't called Halloween and wasn't in there, or B, maybe they actually continued with the premise of the Halloween films were meant to be different every time instead of just being a Michael story. The fact that it's just this one random one in the sequence that is not anything to do with Michael, they really, really. Now, listen, not knocking the film. After we had a discussion about it, actually, it opened my eyes. I rewatched it, and you said to watch it, understand, like, don't go into it like pissed that it's not Michael, and understand what it's supposed to be. And after doing that, I was like, all right, this actually is a good movie, but it's just shoehorned into the Halloween series, and it bothers me.
Like I understand like the betrayal of like what people must have went through in 82. Like I was talking to David about this yesterday. Like the way movies like spread back in the days, like we have the internet. Like people would be going into Season of the Witch today knowing that Michael wasn't in it, but people definitely walked into the theater that year and were like, what the fuck is going on? They're talking about toys and everything at the Shamrock Factory, and I haven't seen Michael once, and no one's brought him up. What's going on? And like, I can understand people walking out like just livid and like, I don't understand what happened.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, when I was first getting into it, internet was a thing, and I still went into it like, what the hell is this?
And I mean, it got me too because I watched them literally on VHS from Blockbuster, and I remember grabbing Season of the Witch and being like, "Oh, cool name for Season of the Witch," and I was like, I didn't like it the first time because I was like, this isn't a Michael Myers movie, and my mind couldn't wrap its head around that. It wasn't until years later that I just watched it knowing, and then I just watched it for the movie, and like as just a big '80s horror film fan that I am. I just love it as that. It's a good 80s horror film. It's stupid. They shouldn't have called it Halloween 3. Like I get that. I feel like that was almost where John Carpenter and Deborah Hill were being a little bit pretentious, where they were kind of smarter than everyone. Like, no, we're gonna end it here and we're gonna do a different Halloween story. Just not around the Michael character, but around the holiday. I'm like, that's a good idea, but you gotta let people know that's what you're doing. And I think they just thought everyone would be on board with it.
Yeah, and I think like as you read into it, that was obviously the plan. They named it Halloween and were like, it's just going to be a scary movie. Almost like Saw, they released a new Saw every Halloween for like 10 years. I
Yeah,
think that was the goal, but for it to be, the first two films were about Michael, then Season of the Witch, then maybe the next one was a werewolf movie, then the next one was going to be a vampire. Like, it was supposed to be just like called Halloween, and then the actual story was just something spooky, not related to the rest of them. But the problem with that was that like Michael was so massive and literally became an iconic character that you just couldn't get out from under his shadow.
yeah, I know, and it kind of ruins that film for a lot of people, which I get. I'm just gonna bang out because the chat's getting a little crowded. Haunted Pillowcase said, "Who won question of the week?" We'll do that after Dennis leaves. We'll do that in the magic wheel for the digital code giveaway. I don't think Dennis wants to stick around for all the busy work, so we'll do that after. Shout Factory is my favorite boutique label. Arrow is a close second. Yeah, so I just swapped those around, but they're definitely the top two. Freaked 4K is my second most anticipated release behind the Elm Street 4K box set. You know about the 4K box set coming out for Nightmare?
Yeah, I'm so excited. That's one that I've been waiting because I have now, like I have the Halloween ones. I have that we both have the Friday the 13th box set.
Mm-hmm.
Ever since I bought that Friday the 13th one, I'm like, man, Nightmare one would be sick.
Because the
So
Nightmare one that we have right now is shitty.
yeah, yeah, garbage. So I'm very excited about that one.
Yeah, me too. I can't wait to see all those in 4K. Might have to affirm that one. Did you guys pick up anything from the Shout Factory 4K sale? No, because there wasn't I have everything kind of like that I want right now. It's more like anticipation of stuff. Did you get anything the last time we
No,
saw?
same thing. I'm really it's more like future releases that I'm waiting on. Every once in a while I'll look and, I'll dive in and get some stuff, maybe one-offs here and there, but this time around I did not.
All right. And here's a good question because actually, funny enough, me and Dennis from the first year of this channel, which the videos still get views, so I don't know why we even stopped doing this, but we used to do original versus remake. So me and Dennis used to actually talk about horror remakes a lot here on the channel back when years ago now, 3 years ago. But what is
Yeah.
your favorite remake? I think I know.
Yeah, I don't want to say it because you get mad all the time.
Yeah, say it. Fucking
Friday the
say
13th, 2009.
it.
Okay, hear me out. As a Friday the 13th fan, loved it, love everything about it. I think the one problem with it and what makes it kind of cute and, like the nostalgia of it is Jason is never consistent. He's never scary. Sometimes he's wearing a button down and a tool belt. Sometimes he's in a jumpsuit. Sometimes he's in jeans and overalls. But in the 2009 remake, he was big. He was scary. He knew how to hunt. He was terrifying. And I think that's what made it better. Jason was actually a monster instead of like a doofy, lazy-eyed, half-bald moron. He was terrifying. So that's why I always pick that one.
That is fair. I don't even know what I would pick. I knock you for that. Like, but I don't even know. Like, what would be technically? I guess there's like the Invasion of the Body Snatchers remake from like the '70s is a remake, but like it's always tough when you go back from a '70s film remaking a '50s film. It's almost unfair because
Yeah.
it's like the technology got there and it kind of caught up. Where it's like now it's like almost offensive when they remake stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I get the only other one that would be pretty close to me would be I mentioned it before, like the '03 Chainsaw.
That actually might be the one because I actually genuinely like that movie. Like I'm not the like I don't love like the original, but I really do like going back to the Jessica Biel one because that one also makes you just so uncomfortable. And the shotgun scene early in the movie, I remember the first time I was watching it because it's not a shot for shot remake of the original one. So I was kind of expecting that. And then when that happened, it surprised the hell out of me.
Yeah, and it's
Oh, The Thing. That's probably my choice. I always forget that The Thing from Outer Space is a remake.
oh, okay, good call, good call. I like that too. That's a good one to throw up there.
Yeah, so that's probably a good one. But yeah, that Jessica Biel the shotgun scene in that van, and it's disgusting. That movie, the filter
Oh,
over everything. It feels like sunny Texas in August, and that's
yeah. And
gross.
the other thing too with that is the guy, I don't know how to say his name because it's like some crazy long Russian name. The guy who plays Leatherface, again, the same reason I like the Friday remake. That guy who plays Leatherface is not just a weird lipstick wearing wig apron guy. He's terrifying. He looks like a big burly butcher who would kill you. Like he is a scary looking dude.
Yeah, no, he does. That's a scary looking face. And then Arlie Ernie is perfect in the movie as well. Uh,
Oh,
I
dude.
know it's unpopular, but I really enjoyed the Nightmare on Elm Street remake. Hopefully you didn't get too mad at us making fun of that 90 Robert, because we were knocking it before, both of us. But you know what? Film is subjective, and if you like the remake, you like the remake. That's how it goes. Dennis likes the Halloween remake from Robert. What the fuck is it? Rob Zombie,
Robert Zombie.
Mr.
I
Zombie.
Yeah, I mean, listen, not again, that's the thing. Film is subjective. You like and listen, I get judged too. You like the Nightmare remake. I like the Friday remake. I'm sure there's plenty of people who think the Friday remake is garbage and think the Nightmare is better. And the one thing I will say is that I won't, like we talked about it with wrestling and everything. I never try to like dunk on people for what they like. If you like it, I'm not going to judge you and think that you have bad taste, because some stuff I like, people hate. I love low budget. If I find on, like, I'll turn on the TV and I'll go to just like Amazon Video, and they'll be like low budget. It's like, you know, Jack the Reaper. And it was a 2020 film made on like $100,000 budget. That's just horrible. I love that stuff. So no judgment, whatever you like, you like. I just personally, I think the biggest problem for me was, and maybe if we revisited the Elm Street and viewed it kind of like we had to view Season of the Witch, like we can't expect They tried to change Freddy into like he was scary. He wasn't funny anymore. I think
Yeah,
that's the biggest shift that made it difficult for me.
yeah, that's what I could get past. The makeup, also, yeah, I mean, he's supposed to be burned in the first films, but like he wasn't like uncomfortable to look at, and like I felt uncomfortable. Like it just looked weird. I get it. It's, I think, more accurate in Nightmare,
Mhm.
the new one, but it still just doesn't work for me. And actually, funnily enough, Haunted, do you think the Texas Chainsaw 2003 and New Beginning will get a 4K from Arrow? I actually heard that they are getting 4K releases at the end of this year. I don't know if it was from Arrow or Shout, but I heard they are getting 4K releases because they are pretty loved. The Crazies remake is fun. I actually have the Blu-ray of that, but it just came out with a 4K. Have you ever seen the Crazies remake?
Yeah, that's the one with Timothy Olyphant, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that one. I thought that was really good. I never saw the original though, to be fair, but
Mm.
I did like that remake.
Dawn of the
I don't,
Dead's another one. Most people like the remake over, but I like the original one a lot more.
yeah, the one with Ving Rhames when they're in the mall and going crazy.
Yeah,
Um,
I like that one, but it's just I like the original one's like an all timer for me personally.
yeah, I think that's tricky. Like when you get into the territory of the original being so iconic, it's very difficult. Like it's hard to say that like the '03 remake is so much better than the original Texas Chainsaw, but I just think it was modernized in a way that made it really, really good.
Yeah, that's very true. And actually, it's funny enough. I've This remake is really good. I think it was directed by Tom Savini. He said that his name is in the horror remake, Night of the Living Dead from 1990. Have you ever seen that?
Yeah, another one. Absolutely. I think it's hard. I love the remake a lot. A lot of the zombie movies, I think the remakes kind of progressively got better.
Yeah, it's funny. Like Night of the Living Dead, it almost feels sacrilege to say that the remake is better, but it is kind of better because the tone kind of shifts a little bit lighter, and like technology catches up and it's more modern actors. And the original one was just working on such a low budget, but it was so iconic for the time. It's kind of hard to say like it's a worse movie. Like it feels sacrilege in a way, don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think the thing is we have to view it like I try to view it in everything, right? Like think about cars, or anything, think about wrestling, right? Like if you go back and watch a Hulk Hogan match, to us right now, given what we watch, a Hulk Hogan match is absolutely terrible. But you have to respect it because it was great at the time and laid the foundation for everything in the future. So same thing with film. Like if you go back and watch a 50s film, obviously the acting's not as good, the technology is nowhere near what we have, the makeup and effects are nowhere near what we have now. Doesn't mean it's bad. I think there's a lot of like we have a lot of shame as film fans to ever say a remake is better because it's like, oh, but the original, and there's like an inherent like gatekeeping of like you're not allowed to like remakes more than originals. But I think you can like them more as long as you still have respect for the original being the reason we have the remake.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that Rob said something similar to that. Like, when I watch a remake, I try not to compare it to the original to enjoy the remake more, which, it's hard to like leave the original out of your mind, especially if like you love it. But That is something that is important because sometimes you can get your own way. I feel like I do that with movies like RoboCop. Like people like the RoboCop remake, and I can never get over the hump of knowing that it's a remake of like one of my favorite films. And like
Yeah.
sometimes I feel like I mentally block the actual quality of the movie just because of my own like love of one in the franchise.
Yeah, and I think that's what I'm saying. Like you just have to take the original for what it is, respect the fact that it existed, respect what they accomplished with the technology that they have, but also not feel guilty. Like I don't know. There's like again, it's like this guilt. Like it's like it felt weird for me to say I like the 2009 Friday the 13th because I feel like there's a lot of people who are like, "How dare you? The first one is the great." And it's like I'm not knocking the original by any means. Every film in the franchise, I love it. I watch them every year. I just think the '09 took a lot of really good things from the original, mashed it up with modern technology, modern acting, modernized Jason a little bit, and I just think it improved. I don't think there's any shame in admitting that with the advancements in film, there's no shame in saying we've improved upon something that was successful, you know?
I agree. I don't think there's anything wrong to say about that. It's understandable. It happens. Technology gets better, acting gets better, and we can at least admire the original one and still acknowledge that the new one might be better quality and
Yeah.
not hurt it. Like, Robert said, I also think it's hilarious. So many physical media collectors also love wrestling. I think wrestling is one of those things that a lot of people are almost sometimes ashamed to say. But then when you look at the ratings for wrestling, you're like, seems like there's a lot more people out there watching wrestling that they care to admit. Because I think CW came out and said that like NXT is one of their highest performing shows and it's one of the cornerstones of the network. Meanwhile, it's the third WWE brand.
Yeah, and that's why when we were talking about it, yeah, I had said to you like, what if we added wrestling into the routine? Because I feel like most people who there's like a lot of crossover between people who game, people who watch films, people who like wrestling. Typically, those crowds all kind of cross over in some way. So since everyone here talks film so much, which we love, and I love to talk film. I'm honored that you let me come on here and chat and answer questions. Adding the wrestling part was just a little extra for those of you who also enjoy that. We can kind of dive into both things and just discuss, answer questions, and talk about the stuff that we like.
Yeah, I think it's the storytelling thing too. Like, if you like physical media, like movies and wrestling, like you might say that's like the storytelling in wrestling is more juvenile, but there's still storytelling in there. And if you appreciate storytelling, obviously you'll overlap into video games, into movies, television. You enjoy and for me, like when it comes to movies, that's why I can't ever just watch like a mindless action movie because I need at least a story in there to keep me interested. It's the same thing with wrestling. Like I can't just now I don't know why I can't unless it's like a match I love and I remember the storyline. I can't just put on a match because you take all the emotional element out of it. I need to know the story going into the match.
Yeah, and there's a lot of really great examples of that. I mean, you look at Undertaker and Kane.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about a horror movie fan. Both of those characters are horror movie villains. They have this awesome backstory together that crosses them over. Um, even some of the stories growing up. Remember Shawn Michaels' return? Triple H was the friend who jumped him. Like that's such a great story, and the matches were emotional, and those are the things. Like, and I think as film fans, film collectors, film buffs, whatever you want to call yourself, you like movies for story. That's why I feel like most of the time the questions we get are about horror movies, about westerns, about they're not like which Expendables do you like the most? You know, we we talk about story driven movies because I think that's what the audience likes. They like story. They like concepts that like explore different topics, different subjects. We like to have characters we're invested in, characters that we hate and want to see get killed, characters we love and want to see triumph. I think that at its core is film, and that is also wrestling.
Yep, I couldn't agree more.
Yeah, unfortunately, I do have to jump now though. But I was thinking, maybe if you want to ask the chat, or you think about it too. You brought it up. Maybe we can revisit doing the remake versus original series.
Yeah, like I said, I look at the views and there's sometimes still comments pop up in those videos, and the audio work was not the best for them. So for people to watch them, imagine what we could do now with better audio.
Yeah, I mean, we can revisit the ones we've done already, and it doesn't have to just be horror. We can talk about other films that have been remade into modern films, whether it be horror or action or thriller, whatever it is, just really make a whole like original versus remake series of anything, any films that have been remade, and let's talk about,
Yeah.
which one's better. Do we think it improved? Do we think it got worse and all that?
Yeah, a fair assessment. I think we could do that. Yeah, we'll put a poll out and see what it comes back with. And next week, I can't do Tuesday at 7:30. I'll let you know what day I can do though. Is that all right?
Yeah, keep me
All right.
posted. That should be good.
All right, I'll let you know. So that'll be the Let's Talk Morning Show next week. And yeah, see you later, Dennis. Thank you, buddy. And we'll do the busy work now, guys.
All right, thank you, everyone. Have a great rest of your week.
Bye, Dan. All right, guys. So now we'll go into the magic wheel and we'll do the digital code giveaway and we'll pick the question of the week winner. And then I'm going to answer some more questions because I do have a bunch more that I want to get into that I have questions for you. Kevin Kruger asked another question. So we'll do that as well. I don't know why this isn't going to the stage. Oh, that's why. Okay. All right. See the magic wheel, folks. And we're going to spin this bad boy because now we have no music, unfortunately. Let's give it a couple shuffles first. Remember, the two names that lands on, they have their choice of the digital codes that I will show you in a second. So here we go, here we go, here we go. Here we go. Yeah, mindless action movies is something I always have a hard time with. It's just like, I love action. I really do. Some of my favorite movies of all time are action, but the plot's got to be what hooks me in. James Bond Fanatic looks like they're going to pull out the victory for round one. Congratulations, James Bond Fanatic. Love the franchise myself. Remove you. Spin again. Yeah, sometimes mindless action movies. It's just, I don't know. Like, I like the Expendables movies, like in a bubble, I guess, but I don't really ever go back to them. But like movies like the Terminator 2 is endlessly rewatchable for how good the franchise is. Let's see who's going to win round two. Ooh, almost got John Del Juggalo. Emmanuel might be him or might be Robert. Let's see. It looks like it's going to be Emmanuel, though. So congratulations, Emmanuel and James Bond Fanatic. You are our two digital code giveaway winners for this week. So go back to me. And let me just check and see who won last week's question of the week. And then you guys, you can all reach out to me. Let's see. Okay. My wife texted me, guys, because she doesn't know I'm live. But let's go to YouTube. It takes a little. I didn't have this stuff brought up already. I should have done that. I should have been smarter about it. But let's. Where is the question of the week? Was this 6 days ago we did this? It looks like it's going to be Ryan Hill. What are my thoughts on the current state of YouTube? So congratulations, Ryan Hill. You also won a digital code. So it's James Bond Fanatic, Ryan Hill, and Emmanuel. And you guys, these are the digital codes that are available for this week. So you got these ones right here. John taking the elevator going up. Yeah, can I sing it? I don't think I'll get in trouble if I sing it. Just keep a mental snapshot of what these digital codes are. Trying to think if I got any movie. Kingdom of Heaven coming to 4K next week should have a digital code with it, so that'll be added next week sometime. Trying to think what else. I just got The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, so I didn't put that on here, but that also has a digital code as well. And let's head back into the questions. Let's see which ones I haven't answered yet. This one, how would you rank the war movies in your Blu-ray collection? Well, that's always a good question. I got my Blu-rays right here. You know, believe it or not, and I was going back and forth on this. Like, you know, I was going with like what I think a classical war movie is. Like, technically, I guess Star Wars are war films, right? It's right in the title. But I didn't intentionally pick movies like that because I think we'd be here all day if I picked movies like, so I just went with like straightforward war movies or like kind of war movie adjacent. I'll get into it, but I think the worst one of my collection, believe it or not, is Christopher Nolan's Dunkirk. I know people love Dunkirk. I am not the biggest Dunkirk fan. Oh wow, you guys can't even see this. So I'm gonna have to hold it like this. I guess I blurred myself, but yeah, Dunkirk is one of my all-time least favorite movies, believe it or not. And I try all the time to watch Dunkirk. It just does not work for me, believe it or not. Next up, I got Stripes. Now, Stripes on 4K just got a brand new Steelbook release with updated Dolby Vision. I have the one from Columbia Classics Collections Volume 1 right here. So that's the one that I got. Just want to see what Kevin said in the chat. Did you win question of the week? What Well, maybe you did. No, Kevin, you have another one where you won question of the week. Either way, or you have a digital code. Let me see. Question three with 54%. I'm looking at it right now. Unless I'm looking at the wrong one. Oh, wait, no. I'm looking. No, you're right. You did win. Question of, yeah, 54%. I read that wrong. I'm sorry, Kevin. I thought that was a six. That was my eyes. No, Kevin, you won question of the week. Question three, 54% out of 28 votes. That's my fault. I'm sorry about that, buddy. My mistake. Yeah, so you won the question, not Kevin. I'm not Ryan. I'm sorry about that. That was my mistake. I misread that. Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. My fault. My mistake. And anyway, moving on. So Kevin, you reach out to me as well. You won a digital code. Like I said, I got The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, and also I will have Kingdom of Heaven next week. So if you want to just hold out for next week, that's cool too. It's really up to you, whatever you want. If you want one of the ones I already have, or just hold out, we always kind of hold those options because I know like sometimes people aren't interested in the stuff that we already have. Next up, I got Born on the 4th of July. This is one from Shout Factory. Like I've said in the past, I'm just not the world's biggest fan of Born on the 4th of July. I think it's a great movie. It's just that Tom Cruise actually takes me out of it. I know people consider that one of his best performances, and it's a great performance. It's just I have a hard time looking past the fact that it's Tom Cruise. And then next up, now this is a movie I saw because of David, aka Shamrock Balls, Downfall, which is rumored to be getting a 4K Blu-ray release. It's like looking at actually through the eyes of Hitler in his last days, and essentially like just him losing his mind and how his constituents looked at him and viewed him at the time of basically at the very, very bitter end. Next up, I got Platoon. Now, Platoon just doesn't have the world's greatest 4K Blu-ray, but this is still a great war film. Oliver Stone's Best Picture winner, Willem Dafoe. It's just a great, great movie. Next up is the first one that we have on the list that was directed by Stanley Kubrick, and this comes out of Volume 2. No, this is Volume 1, Columbia Classics Volume 1, Doctor Strangelove. A classic, by the way, which has also gotten a solo release as well. Next up, now this one you might consider cheating a little bit because it's technically not taking place, in the Vietnam War and like the other Rambo movies that go to different countries and ever. This one's actually in America. Rambo First Blood. It's just that it feels like a Vietnam film, one of those looking back on Vietnam films, and in my opinion, one of the best. And it's also Sylvester Stallone's best performance. He deserves so much recognition for that. I feel like he got overlooked for it. And it's one of those great Vietnam films. Just looking back, I'm like, what happened to these guys? And especially when they came back to America and how they were treated. Only one person dies in that movie, and it's an accident. It really was just, it shouldn't have even happened. Whereas, the sequels become bloodfests. Next up, I got Braveheart. Braveheart is a classic. Now, you might say, is this a war film? I mean, it's a war film in the classical sense of war. It's also the 1995 Best Picture winner. Braveheart is one of those movies I love to revisit every few years. Has one of my all-time favorite scores. Freedom. When I was growing up, I felt like Braveheart was like one of those movies people love to talk about that just does not get talked about anymore. And I guess it's Mel Gibson, but I used to love Braveheart. I wish more people did. Just waking up. What's up, Mark's movie menu? Yeah, we're we got a little bit of time. I got a couple more questions to answer, before we get out of here, and then the replay will be up. We started off with wrestling before we dove into movies, Dennis and I hope you guys like the new structure of our show, and it feels like it, got more people watching than when we just talk about wrestling. But we'll have, just think about the morning show will be like that. So movie questions, wrestling questions, whatever. Like Dennis said, do you guys like our original versus remake series? If you guys go back to 2022 and look up some old videos, those were videos Dennis and I did in the early days of the channel, but people did seem to like them where we look at the original film and look at the remake. And yeah, you could expand it out of horror, like go to like Total Recall, Scarface, and of course RoboCop. Next up, I got Saving Private Ryan, directed by Steven Spielberg. One of the greatest war films of all time. Should have won the 1998 Best Picture, but unfortunately, that went to Shakespeare in Love. Basically, Harvey Weinstein bought that one. Our Life in Horror. Good morning. How you guys doing today? Well, whoever's in here, I appreciate you guys showing up. Thank you guys so much. So I'm glad you guys. And next up, I got actually might be a surprise. This comes very close to beating out. They're both Paths of Glory and of course Full Metal Jacket. Both of them being Stanley Kubrick movies. Paths of Glory, I think, is one of the greatest anti-war films of all time with a heartbreaking ending. That one just kills me. But of course, Full Metal Jacket is the more iconic film. Arlie Ernie gives one of the best performances in any Stanley Kubrick film, which is really saying something. I understand the argument that the first part is not as good as the second part, which I agree with, but still the second part and that ending, man, it'll leave you cold after that. Um, so I absolutely love that movie. How often do you watch movies in 4DX? I actually don't go to 4DX. There is only one 4DX theater around me. It's not something I'm into. I actually have the AMC Stubs A-list pass, so I can see 4 movies a week in an AMC, and my AMC has a Dolby theater and an IMAX theater, so I usually just go to one of those if I'm going to go see a movie. Lately, it's been leaning more towards IMAX because they've been doing a lot more filming for IMAX, but Dolby theaters if I can. And then, obviously, if they're not in either of those things, usually those would be translating. Like Regal has the 4DX, and I think the Showcase Cinemas by me has a 4DX theater. Usually, and they don't have IMAX or Dolby theaters in those locations. But I'm just not somebody who's like too much into the 4DX as I am compared to like seeing something in IMAX or Dolby theater. So usually I lean that way, and I'd pay for it each and every month anyway. So that's why I always try to make sure I at least see like 4 or 5 movies a month in theaters because I pay for it each and every month, and I pay for my wife's, and oh my god, she will not go to the theaters as much as I will. So I feel like sometimes I'm just paying for her pass just on the hope she'll go. But that's why next week you guys won't see my Mission Impossible review and ranking until like the middle of next week, not even the week coming up, like the week after, because I have to wait for her this Tuesday to go see it. Next up, is this a war movie to you guys? Top Gun and Top Gun Maverick. Like they're technically not any sort of war. I mean, like they're minks. They're not even like we don't even really know. They're faceless soldiers essentially, but they are technically fighter pilots. So of course we have to include that on the war list, I think. And then at number 1, I consider this to be not just the greatest war movie of all time, but I think this is Francis Ford Coppola's masterpiece, and that's Apocalypse Now. I have this 6-disc set that came out years ago that was selling for like $20. Same exact 6-disc set that came out on Lionsgate Steelbook Limited not that long ago. And that also includes the Heart of Darkness documentary made by Francis Ford Coppola's wife, documenting the crazy production of Apocalypse Now and everything they went through over years to make that movie. The fact that that movie is as good as it is a testament to everybody who made that movie. And like Francis Ford Coppola just puts himself through absolute hell for the art. He just loves to make movies, and Apocalypse Now to me is his magnum opus. I think so at least. And I think that is also an underrated steelbook that everybody should be checking out. My favorite war movie is Tropic Thunder. So I was having this argument with my wife yesterday, Kylie, because she was watching Tropic Thunder, and right now Kino Lorber is having a sale, so their 4K for that's like $22, I want to say. And I'm like, should I get Tropic Thunder? And I'm like, I don't really love that movie that much. And my wife's like, you don't love Tropic Thunder that much? And I'm like, yeah. Do you see how often we were? She's like, I don't know what's wrong with you. And like, she's like offended that I don't like Tropic Thunder. I always thought that movie was a little bit overrated, if I'm being honest. Still think it's good, but I just don't love it. And actually, let's see. Let's move on. That was the end of that question. Apocalypse Now is number 1. Great questions today, Kevin. I think we're gonna go with the question you asked Dennis, though, as far as like your option for question of the week. We'll get to the questions of the week in a second. Here's a good one from Uncle Charlie. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate your knowledge of these movie genres? Kung fu, westerns, horror movies, crime mafia movies, musicals, 80s comedies, science fiction movies, and 90s action comedies. This is a good question. We'll go in order. So for kung fu movies, I would say I'm like a 2. I am not an expert in kung fu movies at all. I would say that's my biggest blank spot. I just don't generally enjoy them. They're not something that I revisit that often. Every time I do, like I said previously, they were running at the exact same time as like 70s blaxploitation films, and I just kind of feel like I've always leaned more towards blaxploitation films than in the kung fu genre. So I just need to catch up on more of them, but I don't get like the biggest enjoyment. So my expertise on that is like a 2. Now, westerns, I am a big westerns expert, and I would say that's like a 9 out of 10. Big western fan. I'm actually preparing for a list that I'm going to do sometime in July after Shane comes out, because we've gotten so many westerns on 4K Blu-ray this year. The Man with No Name trilogy, Tombstone, Shane's coming out. We've gotten so many westerns on 4K. I want to do a top 10 westerns on 4K Blu-ray list. So I would say I'm a 9 in that area. Now, horror, no, I used to think I was an expert in horror. I used to think. And then people like Frank come along, and Frank from Frank's Media and Reviews, and like, he knows everything about horror. And Frank is like a 10 out of 10 when it comes to expertise. So I would only give myself like a 5 in the horror genre. Unfortunately, I think I might know American horror very well, but internationally, I'm not very, I don't know too much about Giallo films. I think this year I'm making more of a commitment to Italian horror. Like there was a great live stream. I'm sure a lot of you guys saw it this past Tuesday with Ken from Mid-Level Media, Frank. So many great people were on it, and everybody who like in the horror community. I can't be on a panel like that because I don't have as big of an expertise as like they do. Like Our Life in Horror, like experts in horror. I just can't say I can compete on that level, unfortunately. I wish I could, but when it comes to all the horror genres, just not something I'm an expert in. Crime and mafia movies. Now that's more my speed because I do like 1930s gangster movies. I like gangster movies every time they come out now. So I'd have to say that's like an 8 out of 10. French horror. See, Our Life in French horror is my favorite. Like I couldn't say that I've seen some French horror movies, but I'm just not. I am not an expert. I can't compete with that. Like that's who you go to if you want to know about horror. You go to Our Life in Horror. You go to Frank. Like those are people, they know horror. They know the genre so well. There's only so much movies for all of us to see. I just think I'm an expert in other genres. I love horror movies, but like it wasn't until I got on YouTube that I realized my expertise in horror does not match up to like certain other genres. Like I would say definitely come to me for more of westerns. But even this one right here, musicals, I'd give that like a 2 as well, 2 or 3. Like I know about musicals more, maybe even like a 4. I just don't enjoy musicals, so I'm not gonna sit there and run down every musical ever and make sure I watch it just because I'm not like a huge fan of them. But of course, there's the classics, and I think La La Land is almost a masterpiece. 80s comedies. Now that I do know, I'll give myself like an 8 out of 10 when it comes to 80s comedies. I think 80s and 90s gave us the best comedies, in my opinion. Obviously, comedy is the most subjective thing. Comedy and horror are the two most subjective genres where really personal taste plays a big part in that. We all find different things funny. I've always said that I have a very juvenile sense of humor. Other people, might have that like serious, dry delivery sense of humor that they personally enjoy. I like some really dumb stuff, but I also like some really smart stuff. But I also think, it all comes down to you. My personal favorite genre is horror movies. Like I as far as like favorites go, like horror is one of my top 3 favorite genres, but my expertise in it is I wish it was a little bit better. I'm an expert on cigarettes. Johnny Balls, I have figured that out based on all of your questions. I assume you're a 3-pack a day smoker. Next up after 80s comedy, science fiction. Science fiction is my personal favorite genre. Now, the thing is, I feel like science fiction always also gets the shaft. We don't really get that many great science fiction movies anymore. That's why they're so special when they come along. And even throughout history, we haven't been the biggest, giving the gifts. 4-packs, Johnny says. Well, that's impressive. My mother's a 2-pack a day, I think, still. But yeah, that's cool. Good for you. I hope it doesn't kill you, man. Um, you know, but hey, I can't throw stones and live in a glass house. We all have our things, right? I drink 5 cups of coffee a day. That can't be good for me, but I need caffeine to live. So I'm not going to judge you at all. But science fiction, because of that, because it's my favorite genre, I would say that I'm probably a 10 out of 10 expert in the science fiction genre. Other than like, I'm also a pretty big expert, I would say, in like just, like the prestige films. I've always been, even though the Academy pisses me off, and I wouldn't say you should hold them in the highest regard, I've always also been fascinated with the Academy Awards, that I've always like gone out of my way to try and see all the nominees and winners and everything like that. So it's made me an expert in that area. And then last but not least, 90s action movies. I'm definitely an expert in that. I would say I'm a 9 or a 10 when it comes to 90s action movies. Those were movies I loved when I grew up. I saw a lot of mindless 90s action movies that I don't love, but I did see them. So I would definitely give myself, I don't want to pat myself on the back, but when it comes to that, but definitely, there's other great channels for other topics. Like, I could always say that like when it comes to like American horror, I'm an expert. Like Our Life in Horror said, if you want to know something about French horror, those are the people you go to. For me, I can't say I'm the biggest horror expert. I wish. I'm always trying to learn more. That's one thing about I can honestly say about myself, and I think a lot of people on YouTube is we're always trying to get better. Like I love to I just got done watching this I went on a little Paul Newman kick because I'm a big fan of like the Rewatchables and the Big Picture podcast, and they just did a Paul Newman Hall of Fame. So I just got done watching the the last movie stars, Paul Newman and Joanne Woodworth. Watched that, and I've been on like a Paul Newman kick and like filling in some gaps on some of his movies that I haven't seen and like revisiting movies from him that I have seen that like I haven't seen Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid in years. Been holding out for a 4K. I'm like I'm in a real mood to watch this now, so I'm gonna watch it even though there isn't a 4K. But come on, how is there no 4K for that? We got the Sting at least, but no 4K for Butch Cassidy. It doesn't make any sense. But that was a great question, Uncle Charlie. Would that make? Let's see what else we got. Oh, this is one I wanted to answer before we got out of here. This will probably be the last question of the week. If you can make a 12-movie box set for 1995, which movies, which would you choose? That is a great question. I actually wrote down 12. What's up, Mr. Smelly Potato? And actually, Mr. Smelly Potato, you're here before we answer that question. Mr. Smelly Potato actually donated a bunch of movies to the channel that we're going to give away, and I'm going to wait till we hit 5,000 subscribers. We're almost there. We're less than 100 away, so tell your friends about us, guys, so we can spread the word and get to 5,000, because I'm deciding, like, we're going to do a big giveaway, and he donated an entire box of movies. Like, I don't know if you guys can even see it because I have it on blur right now. This is what I was messing around with Dennis, but like this entire box of movies, we're going to be giving that away for 5,000 subscribers. Also with a bunch of movies that I have in a pile. You guys can't really see it right now over here, which I'm just going to offer to my channel subscribers first. That's why I don't want to put those out here. These were donated by Mr. Smelly Potato for a giveaway, so those will all be given away. And then I just want to offer to my channel subscribers like John Juggalo, Mr. Smelly Potato, Kevin Kruger, like some of these other Blu-rays. Before I put them out, whatever they don't want from that pile, I'll give away. But figured we'll do it the fair way, and then we'll have a big giveaway. And then I'm deciding, like, maybe we'll do like maybe the Jaws 50th anniversary steelbook might be one for a good 5,000 subscriber giveaway. I'm kicking around the ideas because I don't know when we're going to hit it, but it's coming around, so I think it's almost a good time to do that. Why is it so blurry? That's because I have blur on, Matt. You guys remember, Matt, like if I do this, watch, I'll get rid of the background and we'll make it off. Now I'm back to this, and now you don't have to see any blurry. See, Matt? I don't know why I was doing that. Actually, I was messing around. But yeah, if you guys want to get a better look at like what's in the box, here you go. I'll obviously eventually take pictures. We might do like 4-wheel spins. I don't know, kicking around ideas for 5,000 subscribers since we're so close, but we're getting there. We're getting there. Matt Kish, much better. You like that? I can also, Matt, if you want, like this is pretty cool. Like one thing about I can make any background I want. It's really cool what they do here on Look, they even got a brick wall. See, I'm a brick wall now. Do you like that? But I really want to thank Mr. Smelly Potato for the 5 coming soon. Yes, yeah, we're almost there. So that's a big milestone. I'm really looking forward to that. Speaking of westerns, have you seen Soldier Blue or Little Big Man? Have not actually, but I'll have to add those to my watch list. Take your shirt off. Don't tempt me. How many subs away from 5K? About 90, I think, or 95. It was, I think, a 40. It's like we're right there. So we're on the home stretch. So that'll be a pretty big celebration. I had in mind, like when we first started the channel, Matt and I, who you can see right here watching the show right now. When we started the channel, I remember 5,000. I thought would be a pretty big deal. That means people are watching, and I'm always happy to hear. We find new subscribers all the time. We're trying new things, trying to really focus on the channel lately. That's why we're doing more live shows, like the Q&A. Like we combine the Q&A live show with Dennis now. Makes it just easier. Also trying to put more videos out, more focused, better made videos. Like tomorrow, the top 10 Tom Cruise movies on 4K Blu-ray. Really excited for you guys to see that. Just I want to try and increase the quality. That's always what I'm working on. Back to my 12 film 1995 box set, though. I made a list of this because I wanted to pick the top 12 films that really represent 1995, and I think these do. I'm not necessarily saying these are the best. That's a list for another day. But Heat, how do you not have Heat in there? Heat is just one of the all-time great films. Michael Mann's, I would say, magnum opus, some of the greatest audio design in film history, one of the greatest heist scenes in film history. De Niro and Al Pacino sitting across from each other is what movies are made for. Like what you feel there. It's just like Robert Redford and Paul Newman in Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. It's just like you're drawn to them. They're magnetic. It's incredible. Next up, I got Toy Story from 1995. I mean, this is really where animation changed. For some people might say for the best, some people might say for the worst. I love Toy Story. I think it's an right now it's not the best animated film of all time. It's not even the best in the Toy Story franchise. Animation has improved so much, but you have to acknowledge the power of Toy Story. Like, I grew up with those movies. Like, they've literally matched me in age the entire time. When Andy graduated high school, that's when I graduated high school, and they've always meant something to me. So I have to include that. Before Sunrise, which is directed by Richard Linklater, the Before trilogy, Before Sunrise, Before Sunset, and Before Midnight. That came out every 9 years. The first one is my second favorite, but I still think, the original is the original. So you have to include that in the 1995 box set. Apollo 13, directed by Ron Howard, starring Tom Hanks, Bill Paxton, Kevin Bacon. I mean, a stacked cast up and down based on a true story. This is a movie, actually, one of the rare movies I remember sharing a bond with my dad with. He loved that movie in 1995, and I remember just watching it with him over and over again. So one of those special movies that also has a very special 4K Blu-ray you guys should check out. I love all the Toy Story movies. No, they are fantastic. So I think Apollo 13 is one of those movies you have to have in here. And you want to include a French film, right? Well, La Haine. I think La Haine from 1995 is one of the best French films of all time. It's one of the most beautiful looking films I've ever seen. And that translated to one of the best looking 4K Blu-rays that I've ever seen. It's getting another 4K Blu-ray release, I think, from BFI this year. Somebody's doing it. I can't remember if it was them or what, but I have the Criterion 4K Blu-ray release. And if you haven't seen La Haine, it's a cinema. If you're a fan of cinematography, it's a wet dream for you. I promise you. Next up, one of the best anime, and actually my personal favorite anime film of all time, not animated anime, Ghost in the Shell. This one is fantastic. Whether you watch this, they tried to do an American remake of this with Scarlett Johansson. That does not work. But Ghost in the Shell is a masterpiece when it comes to anime. It has also one of the most beautiful scores you'll ever hear. And in the sci-fi genre, it's amazing. I understand why they would want to remake that. I mean, it has so many deep sci-fi themes that of, just built right in. Next up, I have Carl Franklin's Devil in a Blue Dress, a great. Oh, Usual Suspects has to go on the box set, 100%. Christopher McQuarrie, I believe, wrote that movie. Bryan Singer directed it. One of the best twist endings with a great spoof in a scary movie. That also has to be it. But Devil in a Blue Dress, a great noir film directed by Carl Franklin. Really, this is the movie that made Don Cheadle, but it's also obviously starring Denzel Washington, one of the all-time greats. Make sure you're hitting that like button. Helps the algorithm on the road to 5K. Yep, that's exactly what it, guys. The like button, even like the dislike button. If you don't like it, any sort of interaction really does help the channel. Just because YouTube's algorithm is crazy sometimes. Terminator 2. One of the that is not 1995, Matt. That is 1991. You know that. You're better than this, unless you didn't hear me say it. 12 Monkeys. I think that's one of the best. Terry Gilliam directed that one. That's an uncomfortable time travel movie, but somebody who loves time travel as one of their favorite tropes in movies, the time travel element, when you throw it in, even a bad one, that's one where even a bad time travel movie, I love the trope. Like Time Cop, I never thought was a great movie, but it's dealing with time travel. I eat that shit up. And that's the same thing that happens when it comes to movies like 12 Monkeys. Bruce Willis is great. Brad Pitt, the same exact year as Seven, which of course would also make the 1995 box set. You could also see it in Seven because they had to do reshoots that his hair from 12 Monkeys ends up in Seven because, obviously he's not going to cut your hair. This happens a lot in film. In Top Gun, there's a reason why Kelly McGillicuddy and Tom Cruise just got out of the shower while his hair's all wet and it looks longer. He's making the color of money. Carrie McGillicuddy is making something else as well. That's why she's wearing a hat, because, you can't change the looks for the movie. They were already done. So I always found that very, very, very interesting. Got to include Clueless, my wife's favorite movie. It's been a great journey to 5K this far. Yeah, John Doe Juggalo has been here pretty much the entire time. One of my biggest supporters. Get Shorty is a fantastic film. If you guys have not seen that one, John Travolta, I want to Danny DeVito's in that movie. That one is a classic. That one's like your classic, almost like it feels like it has the tone of like a good caper film. It's just like moving along so light. And if you're a fan of like Hollywood and the inner workings of it, I think Get Shorty is a good one. What was the sequel that they came on with years later that had The Rock in it? It wasn't Get Shorty 2. They changed the name around a little bit. Another one, Braveheart, which we talked about earlier. That did win the Best Picture. I feel like we have to include that in there. John is the movie critic master. Tim's that's my buddy Tim. Tim is me and my buddy. We like to talk 80s movies, Tim and I. And actually, I have to get an 80s movie list together for Tim because I've been promising him for a while that I'd finally curate all of my 80s movies into one fine list. But Tim will always talk about our love for Roadhouse. It was Be Cool. There it is, Mr. Smelly Potato. Be Cool. 2005, I want to say. This summer. I went and saw that in theaters. I just thought it was very forgettable. I was eating the Rock's gravy back then, or the Rock's pie, if you will. And I was just always on board with him. And I'm at work checking in and waiting for that list. I told you, now that I got another day off, it'll make it a lot easier to do things like that. This week also, it's been a little bit tough because my wife's out of town. You might think, oh, that should make things easier. Well, it means I got to do a lot more work around the house because we got the 2 dogs and everything. And, I'm just a man of one. I got to take care of everything here at the homestead all by my lonesome. That's the way it goes, though. My favorite 80s comedy actor is John Candy. Dude, John Candy is one of my all-time favorites. I support that. Nice to have an extra day off. It always is. I love John Candy. Uncle Buck. But Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, Del Griffith is one of my favorite 80s characters, just bar none. I've always loved Del Griffith. He's a very relatable guy. He's a nice guy. I get the overbearingness of him and why that can be annoying to people, just like Steve Martin's character. But John Candy also just seemed like those genuine nice guys. And when the genuine nice guy passed away at such a young age, it hurts. And he's one that, like, it just genuinely hurts. Like, even in the 90s, like movies like Cool Runnings is great. I think one of his last great performance. He was doing it all the way up to the end. His little cameo in Home Alone is just as memorable as any of his films. In Chicago? No, Sheboygan. He's Great Outdoors. That's a classic. Summer Rental. Great Outdoors with him and Dan Aykroyd. It's just an absolute classic as well. I mean, the guy, he really, if you go back and watch like some of his comedy stuff he was doing in Second City with like Catherine O'Hara and everything, and that group of comedians, he just had it. He was just one of those guys you get drawn to, just a charming, nice guy, and that's why I loved him. Great, it's probably my favorite 80s. Great Outdoors is great. That's one we need a 4K Blu-ray for. Surprisingly, we got Summer Rentals before the Great Outdoors on 4K. Even Fletch didn't get a 4K release. It got just a regular scan, but it did get a new scan. I got to give him credit. It's a nice new Blu-ray scan. So, Fletch is one of those movies. But that's all the questions for this week. I'm actually got to get out of here now. Got to let the dogs out and take care of them. But for this week's question of the week, so I'll put a poll out in the next couple days, maybe later today. So we'll go with Kevin Kruger's first question for Dennis, where he ranked the horror movie franchises. I'm going to do Uncle Charlie's ranking the Uncle Charlie and me having rate my skill level on certain genres. And then, of course, we'll also do this one right here from Acquiesce of Movies about the box set for 1995, because I thought that was a lot of fun. Have a great week, John. Thanks, John Doe Juggalo. I appreciate that. Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, everybody, for being in here. Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Robert. I appreciate you popping in here, really interacting with the chat as well. Our Life in Horror. Make sure you guys head over to their YouTube channel, like and subscribe. I promise you will not regret that. Same thing with John Doe Juggalo's YouTube channel. It's only getting bigger and bigger. Make sure you guys are subscribed there. You won't regret that as well. Thanks to all my channel members and subscribers. Thank you for everybody who joined in here. As always, keep us updated on what you guys think. Anything you want to change, always know how this works. We appreciate all of the feedback. It really does help. That's it. I'll give you guys an update on Friday when I get my work schedule for next week, what next week's live shows are looking like. It'll be 1 or 2. I know next Tuesday morning I can't do this time. I have another doctor's appointment at 8 a.m. So it's right when we usually do the show. It's just because Tuesday used to be my regular day off. So I'll keep you guys updated, though. But enjoy your week, guys. Look out for more videos coming soon and enjoy your day. Thanks for being here.